And welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host for tonight, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter at that name. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Really need to find another thing.
I left that task to you.
Yeah.
If you find it.
Indeed. And that voice you hear can be the only one, or at least on this recording, who can answer this question.
Is Brooklyn in the house? Without a doubt.
One agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
And what not with us tonight is PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and his umbrella sites therein. And the Osiris of this ish, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is of course the Comic Book Chronicles account there. Click Nation on Twitter, DKLIQNATION, and theclicknation.com, and of course Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. Also probably doing a little bit of racing to get some of that writing done, but it's a whole nother story. He's been doing a good bit, because it's like, and there's probably good 4 or 5 bits of the news that we have tonight, or from him, that I didn't realize until earlier.
Nice.
So good on him for that. You can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network.
Do it today.
CSPN.us, folks, if you did not know the site. And you can also find this podcast on Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, along with the really great the new Gangstar album, by the way, and this Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. I'm just saying the hip hop heads got it. We need the streets needed that new Gangstar. That's all I'm saying. Actually, there was something else that was on there. But regardless, we'll get to that later. But first off, we're going to get into the comic books of the week. And we're starting off with the new X book of the week, Fallen Angels #1, which is a similarly titled as the same old book of that name, but not going strictly in the same direction that one did.
Right. It's just a similar name only.
And shout out to Brian Edward Hill, aka Brian Hill, who is writing this actually.
Yes, former guest of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. And he shortened his name for. Actually, I think he did say on reasons as to why, but yeah, he's pretty much going by Brian Hill for his books nowadays. But getting into the book proper, we should go and say that if you're not up on the, it's not necessarily a drama, but what's happened with Psylocke, especially before coming out of X-Force #1, or Excalibur, excuse me, #1.
Excalibur, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll get to X-Force #1 in a second,
right.
But then yeah, there may or may not be some confusion going on.
Right. Very quickly, I was going to say, hold that thought. I would just remind all those listening and watching on YouTube and catching up on their X history. The character of Psylocke has had a lot of changes done to her over the course of her history, and we are delving into a lot of the character's history in both Excalibur and here in Fallen Angels.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to the introduction of the Ninja Psylocke from the Acts of Vengeance storyline from way back when, with the Mandarin and Matsuo Surabaya and the hand. And there's a little bit of some stuff that happened pre-Legacy Virus and post-Legacy Virus, because that's another place where the two separate halves were coexisting for a while. So now we're back to a state where Psylocke the body of Quanon and Elizabeth Braddock are two separate people.
Yep. And apparently now, so the part that I did not sure that I wasn't aware of, and plus, like I said, I'm not on their splitting or their resplitting, I guess.
Right.
Was she? And I think I've already asked this question: was Quanon already a mutant, and did she already have similar powers to Psylocke?
I was about to say I don't recall, but I think what ended up happening is that there was some transference. I could be wrong.
That's what I'm guessing. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was guessing because I was like, wait, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes sense, but because I
was about to add because from my recollection, I didn't have a chance to do the old school double checking internet research. So don't call me out on this, ladies and gentlemen on the interwebs.
But I kind of did, but actually, there's specific reason why I just wanted to go back and just read what happened in the splitting.
Sure. Well, the only thing I was gonna add is that she, I believe, died from the legacy virus. So, that only affected mutants. So,
sure. But yeah, exactly. And since she's on Krakoa now, obviously, and she's got the similar powers as Silent. So yeah, so the whole transference thing kind of checks out unless something else happened, and which in this issue we do get what seems to be. I am not neither one of us are well versed on some of that stuff. So what seems to be
we've forgotten.
Well, there is that too.
Over the course of many years.
There is also that because we have gone through many years and a lot of many books. Like the one person we know for a fact who would possibly know would be Tim, and he's not here tonight. So even if he knows, actually, now that I think about it, but regardless, there may seem to be, and I don't want to use this word lightly because it can very much be overused, retcon of some past history of Quanon. Maybe. Like it may be kind of rehashing stuff that we just did not know.
Right, we're not sure, and it seemed new to me when I read this issue.
Right, some of they kind of, especially in the middle of the book, seemed like it might have been new, but
it seemed new to me. But as you said, I may have already forgotten this. So
because from what I remember, it's like she was kind of young-ish. But not like like teenage young, but she was kind of on the youngish side. So some of the stuff that was the revelations in this book seemed rather new in a certain standpoint. Regardless, we start off the book with what seems to be a prophetic dream or nightmare that Quanon has. We find out she's taken up the name of Psylocke, and that she's apparently not. She's pretty much going the opposite route of Betsy, in that which we found out in Excalibur that Betsy doesn't want to be called Psylocke anymore. We now know why, I guess partially, and that Quanon is wanting to go by Psylocke now and eschewing the name of Quanon for reasons in this issue. Again, we also get a few bits of her past that kind of plays into her current mental state, or her current state, I should say, which kind of mirrors somewhat of something that Psylocke, Betsy Braddock, was going through some years ago, where she was kind of feeling some sort of way, about the state of the world and her place in it, and her willingness to kill in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So some would argue that came from Quanon. I guess if they're reading this, we don't know. But regardless, so that leads her into seeking out some help into getting off the island, which this comes after the events of X-Force #1, which if you don't know what happened at the end of that, I don't want to spoil it to you. Something happened at the end of that put the island of Krakoa on lockdown, and therefore no one can leave, with the exception of probably Kitty Pryde, who's probably already off the island because she can't get on there, and her crew, who can go freely. So she goes to Magneto, of all places, because again, events being what they were, who's like, nah. I'm not going to sit here and give away the whole book, but just some groundwork as to how it plays out into some continuity. So it's that whole thing is like, well, I can't officially let you go, but you'll find a way. There's a way to do it, and which leads her to off on a mission to figure out what's going on with this dream that she had in the beginning of the book, which
just
caused her to go to a couple of people.
I would just, the only thing I would add, and just to kind of clear up how, I guess, the premise of the book, which kind of occupies, my notes, my notes are basically my take on this book, which is that the book occupies a weird space in this in this new land of X books.
Kind of.
And it's, the premise is that Psylocke is is experiencing visions, a dream of either stuff that is happening now or stuff that happened in the past, or a little bit of both. Right. And that's essentially the starting point for the story.
Well, from what they say later on in the story, it seemed like it had already happened in the recent past.
Right. But the point being that's the impetus for her trying to, embark upon an investigation and recruiting at least 2 characters to go with her. It's interesting to see on the opening page that one Captain Britain is also listed as a potential character in the story. So we'll see how Betsy is involved going forward. Not in this issue, though.
Right. So, well, see, you know what? I've started to take that as like basically, hey, here's the people who are showing up in the book, not necessarily on the team. But again, where we've seen that's not necessarily the case, and you might be more right than not.
Right. We shall see.
Yeah. This is not really. There's a new drug out there that's it's like computerized sex packets, as I said in my notes, but not necessarily for sex. Shout out to Digital Underground. But I don't know if what you're thinking, it might be similar to what I'm thinking, is that there might be an overlap in teams with this, because this kind of feels like another X-Force team to me. Because their mission is not necessarily above board. And if you think about it, X-Force would probably have taken on a mission like this, given,
Right. Well, we're obviously very, very early on in the dawn of X, so we don't know yet. I'm just hazarding a guess, but it seems like X-Force is kind of the, and the way I've read it, described in some of the interviews is they're a little bit of a mix of the intelligence and the military branch of Krakoa, and Fallen Angels is, I think, a very I don't know if it's even an X-Force type story, because this seems to be very focused on Psylocke. So
well, yeah, there's clearly
we shall see what purpose this team, if it has one, after the first several story arcs.
Right. I mean, the difference is like there was that time, and technically X-Force may still be in that, but there was that one time, the 1 or 2 times where X-Force was basically the wet works team. This is kind of that, but not necessarily that, because this is more of a not necessarily revenge driven team, but there's definitely something personal in this team, and whereas X-Force is like, hey, these are the threats to mutants, and we got to take care of it before, off the board type of situation. Even though this one is partially that, if the scope of it is what it is. There's not really much else to say about that.
Right. It's about, at the end of the day, it's about whether or not we're willing to follow along. I'm not sure. This is always one of the Dawn of X books that I was a little shaky on. I liked some of the stuff that Brian Hill and Simon is that his name? Kodransky?
Sure, go with that.
Yeah, Kodransky. Yeah. That he pulled off with the art. It's very moody. There's definitely some quirk to it. So it's kept me on for probably another issue or 2. So let's see where this goes.
Right. I think the only other thing I can say about that is, like, I guess I could say I was a fan of the original run of Fallen Angels, which was basically the the X teens at the time, or a mixture of X teens at the time, who I guess ended up being the exterminators, partially, and
Yeah, it was like Rusty's kids.
yeah, and a couple other folk. Yeah, it was like mostly the X Factor kids and a couple other people. And it was falling out of an event. I think it was Inferno, as we mentioned earlier before the show. But and it was only a miniseries. And I think actually Fallen Angels was Sunspot.
I think Sunspot played a role as well, but it's been a long time since I looked at it. So
yeah, same here. But regardless, it was just basically dare I say, misfit team of mutants, but it wasn't so much of seeing. They're just that was kind of on a personal mission that was kind of coming out of whatever event that was off of. So in respects, that is similar to this. Now that I'm thinking about it, and the last thing I'll say about that was I know there was not necessarily some contention, but I remember seeing something on Twitter but Brian Hill, who's writing this book, and Tenny Howard, who is writing Excalibur, had their opinions on the whole Psylocke thing.
Okay.
Not necessarily butting heads with each other, because they basically had, someone, I think, asked Brian Hill specifically, and I think may have asked her about, their treatments of the whole Betsy Quantum thing.
Okay.
And I think Brian Hill said something was like, well, it's just, he defers to her on what she's doing, and he's doing his thing basically. So it wasn't really nothing to it. But that was something that was kind of made me curious about this book and what's going on in Excalibur, because obviously there was that one panel of Quanon showing up, which I guess could have led into this. We don't even know, but because there was a similar situation from the other side of it,
right?
If you think about it, but that scene didn't necessarily play out the same way. So timeline things, that's something that's going to be of interest to me for at least the arc of this book, and I guess Excalibur too, but who knows how much that's going to play there or here. All right, so that being said, we can get to the other X book of the week, X-Men #2, which, as Agent 70 and I both read this book before Fallen Angels, which, if you've been keeping track of the reading order in the back of the X books, Fallen Angels comes first. And both of us ignored that completely. Now, that's not to say that it's going to mess with your enjoyment or any of the continuity of reading out of order. Because it doesn't really, like,
in this case, it didn't really affect too much.
Exactly, because Fallen Angels does definitely come out of X Factor, X Force, which came out last week, but there's only mention of stuff from X Force, and the only mention of X Force came out of the first page where there was the recap, basically. Fallen Angels definitely said touches upon what happened in X Force in the midst of it. That being said, I enjoyed this issue because it was a nice little romp between, and the way it was written, it was like, hey, it's almost like, hey, we're just gonna go on a nice family outing with this island that is heading towards Krakoa. We gotta see what it was, and it's basically Scott, Rachel, and Cable, or Teen Cable, I guess you could call him just nowadays, or he's Cable, whatever, because he's the only.
I was gonna say he's the only Cable. So
yeah, but it was I enjoyed it for that, because it was just like, just matter of factly, talking like a family, and while they're going on this mission, dad and the two kids, and during the course of the mission of the mission, Scott's like, hey, you ever been to Hawaii? It's like, hey, you should go. Matter of fact, I'll take you there. Matter of fact, I'll take you someplace. Like, it was just that kind of stuff going on while they're in the midst of this mission to intercept this island and see what was going on. And during the course of this, we find out that it calls back to something out of either House and or Powers of X, with something that came up with Krakoa's origin, and in relation to Apocalypse. So, that's going to be a thing that's apparently, I don't know if this is going to be the first arc, or this just, because this is like the first technical mission of the X books. Or the main X books, I should say.
Right. So getting into what happens in this book, it's a little out of left field for pretty much anyone who's been reading
Kind of. Yeah. I
The
said what I said. Yeah.
it's a little out of left field because uh we run into this field trip, and it's brought upon the X-Men because things are literally moving, and what they find is that there is another landmass that is having a certain effect on Krakoa, and they have to investigate. And what do they find on this other
Well,
landmass?
like I said, it was moving towards
Yeah.
Krakoa, and that's why it was trying to intercept it. But
So,
which the resolution of that was amusing.
well, I was gonna say that I think it was they kept saying that Krakoa was moving towards it, to be honest, but I could be wrong. But in any event, yeah, that has an interesting resolution, but they also run into a certain character, and the interactions between this I guess new character and Cable, this new youthful, brash, kind of jerky Cable.
Cable first. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm sorry.
Cable shot first. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, he definitely set it up so that he would shoot first. So, this particular interaction was pretty interesting. I wasn't 100% sure I was on board with Hickman's characterizations of these characters, but none of them sound 100% like they used to, and that's definitely uh, Hickman's influence on the story going forward.
Well, and I think going off of that, I think we have established well before now that Hickman's not interested in. Well, we say that, I don't know, but I mean the voices of the past of these characters are no longer valid to a point. Like, yes, their personalities are still kind of there, but at the same time, like the way they were been written in the past is not going to be the same way they're written here because of all of the events leading up to it.
Right. It just sounds weird. Just reading it from these characters' perspectives. So
I like it though.
Well, it's different, and the whole point is that it's a new direction. So, but at the end of the day, what you have is this introduction of a character who has ties to Apocalypse of all people. And moving forward, we'll see how this new landmass and Apocalypse are all interconnected.
Well, we've already seen Krakoa and the landmass already interconnected. Cues but yeah. So
I was like, wait a second, I'm in between this and this.
I'll take the first one, so that's fine.
It's a little in between. Like,
and though, so the weirdest part of it for me was that, especially when Scott comes to the kids and it's like, "Hey, we're gonna take on this mission to that other place we don't normally speak of," which I'm like, well, what is he talking about? Because the only other only place outside of the Savage Land is Monster Island. So at first I was thinking, okay, well, they're going to Monster Island, but then once you get into it and we find out that it's that island that was mentioned, or this was something that came out of what was mentioned in House of Powers of X, then yeah, okay, that's something. But hey, and the only other thing I could note here, and this is just a personal thing, that Scott gets answered the question by this new old person that they come across, which kind of answers a question for me, sorta, coming out of House and Powers of, because there was a certain dynamic that's been classically played about with, and probably still could be here, that we thought got into a certain place, which still could very well be. And I think this was Hickman answering that, because there was some theories as to possibly a, not necessarily a threesome, but a poly V with Jean and Wolverine. That could still very well be, but he kind of answers part of it.
I was about to say we still have to find out more.
Exactly. I'm just just putting some stuff in the air. That's all I'm saying. There's no confirmation of anything at this point. But it was just amusing to see that. I was like, that was a weird question to come up for for similarly. Well, in relation to the story, it makes sense once you get to the end of the thing. But at the same time,
once you finally understand what the resolution is to
felt like there was more
land masses, exactly.
Right, but you felt like there's more to the question than just what ends up coming of it. So, like I said, I enjoyed this issue for everything around it, and I'm kind of digging the way the voices are coming out. Like, yeah, I know it sounds weird given how they classically are, but at the same time, they're not coming from the same places they used to, and that's why I think I'm like, okay, I get it, I get that part, because if they were coming from the same places where they used to, they would probably still be talking the same way, as you said you used to. But being that they're not, and things are where they are now, that's why they have a different voice than what they normally do. That's probably going to change. We'll see.
Still sounds odd, I think a lot of folks, and I think we've even touched on it in the past about the cult like interactions and and exchanges that we've gotten all sounded a little off, so it's just a continuation of that. So
well, yeah, I don't know, like I said, I'm more and more disagreeing with that it's off. It's just that no, it's just the state they're starting off with, because they're not coming from the way they used to be able to talk. Like, they're coming from where we're always, they're not coming from being the downtrodden, always not put upon, but always hated mutants, which they still are. So to a point, probably. Well, there's no problem about it, given the X-Force, but they're coming from a different place because there's the things that's been set up in House and Pox of give them a new status. So, and therefore, like I said, like I just said, it kind of gives them a new way to come off because of that. Like, yeah, it's definitely, for a long time readers, I'm sure it will definitely be jarring because you're not used to hearing them like this.
Yeah, shout out to Patti LaBelle and New Attitude. All
but
right,
it's a piece now, so or a sort of piece. So yeah,
President Bartlett.
What's next?
All right, where
Agents of Atlas?
Sure.
Agents of Atlas number 4. That wasn't necessarily the cleanest place to go into, but that's all right, because we're already off of my the way I read this. Pardon. I don't know. This was I'm continuing to enjoy this book. There was a part of this book that kind of and I'm pretty sure it was very much a coincidence, that kind of reminded me of a real world event that happened. I was like, wow, did Pac know something like this was going to happen before he wrote it? Or nah, it's probably just something that was going to happen in the course of what was going on in here anyway. But outside of that, we get to see, Amadeus.
Oh, you mean what was on the screen?
Wait, what now?
What you're referring to, like the real world thing that was happening on the screen?
No, something that happened in the book with. So basically, they're
Giant Man or
no.
Oh, okay, because that's what I thought you were referring to. I'm like, in the real world, like we talking about that Young Avengers thing in that whatchamacallit, in I forget what South American country it was now, but
oh no, not that.
Oh, okay.
No.
So another real world thing.
Yes. There was a thing with a cop that was stopping a dude for eating on a train or near a train terminal or bus terminal, whatever it was. And there was a similar situation that almost played out like that in the course of this book.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, but like I said, that's just something when you're in a situation as this, something like that was going to happen. So that was purely coincidence. I'm fairly certain, because he would have had known about this happening months in advance, and this just happened within the last week.
Right.
So
it's more. So the coincidence that you were referring to actually works towards the that scene between Giant Man and what was it? Ikeda, Isaac Ikeda.
Oh, yeah, Isaac Ikeda. Yeah,
right, exactly. Like, we've got another.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, got another instance of it. So, I mean, what I'm referring to is, relationship stuff is afoot in Pan during this series, and a couple things pop up where we see the mysteries surrounding Pan and the Atlas Foundation kind of deepen. There's one exchange in this that I thought was really well done, and it's actually between Wave and Luna Snow, and it refers to
Yes.
the fact that Amadeus in the previous issue found a way to get a stipend from the Atlas Foundation to be paid to the members of the agents of Atlas,
Right.
who were by and large not coming from very
They're
well off
definitely coming from
backgrounds,
different,
right?
yeah, statuses. Yeah.
So
And
so
financial statuses also.
so ultimately he ended up figuring out a way to get them all stipends so that they wouldn't all be, dead broke. And Wave and Luna Snow, who are coming from very different economic strata, have a pretty telling conversation about the haves and the have-nots and where they're coming from in their personal backgrounds.
Right. Yeah, I actually enjoyed that part. It was like, okay, because Luna was like, oh wow, I didn't even think of, wasn't even thinking about, that because, in real life, that's how people, there are people that are like that,
Right.
So, but yeah, like you said, you pretty much said the whole thing. But I do like seeing the fact that Amadeus, is seemingly getting more comfortable in his leadership role in this issue. Because you're just like, all right, we got to start doing some stuff. So then you just start sending folks to doing whatever. And I feel like it's not like it's not known, but the part he asked when he was asking Silk about Raz, aka Giant Man,
Mhm.
like that was the part I was like, yeah, I was along with him on that part because he basically asked him like, he's gonna get hurt, isn't he? I'm like, we don't know, but I think we do know. I feel that way. I don't know. It may not be the case.
I feel like, and I guess there's really only so much to say about this issue because we are still in the midst of trying to figure out what the deal is behind Pan and Mike Gwynn, the proprietor behind this whole Pan City. So one thing that I wanted to mention before we moved on is that I think Greg Pak is doing a decent job of keeping all of these characters involved.
Yes.
And it's funny that even I kind of lost track of some of the characters that are technically a part of this group of agents of Atlas, and seeing characters filter in and out of the story, and him putting them to some use is pretty. He does a pretty good job of it. It's pretty deft because it's easy for a cast of characters like this that's kind of that's really wide ranging. It's got a lot of age range and power range as well. So it's a lot. It's easy for some of these characters to get lost in the shuffle, but I think he's done a pretty good job to this point of making sure that the spotlight shines on everyone, at least for a little bit.
Well, and it kind of makes sense anyway because remember this is a mini series which ends next issue,
Right.
so you kind of have to use all the folks you got, for as long as you got them. So yeah, so definitely his use was deft, but it's also kind of necessary.
I would say that he's setting up for probably yet another mini series from the
I
way
would hope so.
from the way it seems to be going, because we went very quickly from the War of the Realms Agents of Atlas into this series. So my hope is that they're going to announce another series soon.
Or at the very least, I wouldn't mind, which I don't know if he would be up for it, make it ongoing. Just go straight up into it,
It all depends, right? It all depends on what what kind of support they're able to get. Unfortunately, we know how that goes sometimes.
Yeah, especially yeah. So it so far is doing better than Black Panther and the Crew. Yes, I'm gonna keep going back on that. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of Black Panther and the Crew, Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda, #3. There's a transition for you, ain't it? I actually didn't intend to do that. So we get a okay. So I am going to admit that when I saw that there was a flashback to Avengers No Surrender, and it says so in my notes that I was like, okay, well, clearly we know somebody's going to show up from that series who's was pretty much a part of that, and the other Avengers one. Turns out didn't happen yet. Assuming this person ever shows up at all. But there was definitely a flashback to something that Avengers No Surrender, something I didn't even think about at the time. So if you're not aware, Avengers No Surrender was the Avengers miniseries from last year or earlier this year. Or was it earlier this year? Actually, I think now that I think about it. Where the Earth got kidnapped. The one part of that didn't get thought of by I don't think anybody, or apparently except for whoever wrote this. Who's written this book? Zub, I think. Jim Zub's writing this book. Was what happened to the moon during that time? Because obviously, with the Earth gone, the moon doesn't have anything to revolve around. Apparently, that gets answered in this book. Because otherwise you'd be like, oh, comics, which clearly we were, because nobody thought about that point. But anyway, something ends up happening on the moon where the agents of Wakanda end up investigating, and comes out to be there's something a little bit bigger going on here. And there is a newer recruit to the agents apparently, and it's not the person that I thought of. In fact, it was somebody that I was happy to see, but didn't expect.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert!
I did read this.
Okay, Mockingbird shows up, folks. I love it.
Welcome back, Bobby Morris.
Exactly. When I saw her, I was like, Bobby. So. And of course, you got to get the obligatory. I was married to Hawkeye joke in there some kind of way, and that did happen. So they got that out of the way. But yeah, like I said, they set it up to where it seems like she's definitely going to be a part of the group, because coming into this, she was like, I don't know about this, but given what's probably going to happen in the next issue, she's probably going to be on board.
They probably needed at least another field agent, because I wonder who they're going to slowly phase out of at least field operations.
I see. This is it. I'm not sure if they are. Like, it seemed like to me there's just going to be. It was always meant to be a rotating cast of agents. Because if you think about it, the last mission had Fat Cobra, Wasp, and like the only constant was like Okoye in all of this, and Black Panther. Like, if anything, Black Panther might be going off and then just leaving it to Okoye to
Have they always had that question mark new recruit on that first page?
No, because the last issue was they had everybody who showed up. They guess they wanted to keep what I suppose is Mockingbird's recruitment as as a surprise until you were getting to reading it. Which makes sense, because if you think about it, you read those pages and like, oh, well, clearly this person's going to be in this book. So, no surprise there. But this was a pretty welcome surprise by that. So that was a pretty good use of that, I would say. Outside of that, like I said, some things happen on the moon, and the team kind of gets into a little bit of trouble, and leaving one person to their own devices, which again, like I said, will play out in the next issue. So it'll be good. And actually, there's a weird, not necessarily a weird mirror, but I guess they're similar strokes to it, because if you think about Agents of Atlas, they have White Fox, and in her they kind of did a similar thing. Well, they didn't do a similar thing, but with her origin, they kind of basically say, hey, this is why we need her, and this this week's issue of Agents of Atlas also kind of bore that out. So like, hey, what team doesn't need a spy, or two or three, because
right. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, what we have with this with this Agents of Wakanda team is the support staff for the Celestial Base. That's how they originally termed it, but they're off doing their own thing in the absence of SHIELD. So I guess the only thing I was going to just add just very briefly is It's kind of freaky that no one noticed that the moon was the way it was. It was spongiform
before now. Well, I mean, hey, actually, the other question was like, wait, we know there are some people living on said moon,
right?
So why
Yeah.
they notice?
Yeah, so it's a little on the weird side, but it's comics, so
right, or it's a different. Well, I don't know. See, again, continuity and time frame. We don't know when this is being based. Like they could be like, oh no, this happened before that stuff kind of got situated, or they could play it all kind of different ways, So but it is kind of. I thought about that too. It was like, well, wait, somebody would have noticed this by now, So, but yeah, it is what it is. Either way, it was a pretty good issue. I think that's pretty much. Oh, the only other thing is, hey, T'Challa's passwords are pretty easy to guess at this point. If you if you know his relations,
yeah.
Which I found kind of funny. I was like, okay, we see you, we see you, sir.
Yeah, we see where your mind is.
So I got a good chuckle out of that. But from that, where you want to go, sir?
All right.
Stay the cosmic, or you want to go?
Yeah, I was about to say we can stay with the cosmic because there's a pretty fun cosmic book out this week. It's Guardians of the Galaxy number 11.
Yes,
it was actually a potential click of the week for me. Just very briefly before we get into the get in depth on it. The Universal Church of Truth has never controlled this many superpowered beings, and it all will fall upon the shoulders of Rocket to save the day.
Yeah, and who's also in his own finite state, let's just say. Go coming into this. He's more resource light than he was coming into this at the end of this issue. So, and plus,
thanks to all the superpowered beings that are under the control of the Universal Church.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Which, if I know you saw the page at the end of the book with that shows the upcoming stuff. So I'm assuming whatever's going to happen, because we do know this book. I think we said this book is ending at 20, right? So it's going to see that the new wave of annihilation stuff. I assume that's coming next month,
right? Or later this month.
Well, yeah, starting later this month, given what was at that back page. But yes, definitely. So some of this stuff is probably going to be spilling over into that. At least that's what it's reading as anyway. So, and may or may not be whatever the heck's happening with Rocket because of the recent issues, including this one. Because they have been teasing. I'll just go ahead and say it. We don't know if it's actually going to happen. They've been teasing a death of Rocket Raccoon, which, if they were going to actually do that, they've been kind of drawing that out a little bit more. But I don't know. Not everything is always what it seems, and he's not a mutant, so he ain't coming back. Which actually reminds me of something that I forgot to mention in Fallen Angels, but I'm not even going to worry about it right now. But I feel like this, we'll talk about that afterwards. Anyway, so yeah, Guardians was pretty good. There was a bunch of people that we hadn't seen not a bunch, but there was a couple of people we hadn't seen in a minute that showed up. And as going back to what I just said about the stuff at the back page, it looks like it's a lot of stuff from the cosmic end of the universe is going to be coming back together again, including a lot of people from the very first issue of this volume.
Right. Just very quickly, I had always been under the impression that Guardians was ending sooner rather than later, and I just want to make sure that we don't have our stories crossed, because the series is being rebooted in January with Guardians number 1. That's when they're getting that's when Al Ewing and Juan Cabal are starting it.
So then
12 is going to be the last issue.
Okay, so where did we get 20 from?
Not sure. I think it was we were just misreading something.
Maybe.
So I just so that we're not missing, we're not continually getting our
emails out of
mixed up.
Emails off.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that is true. But yeah, but what we said about the stuff coming out of going into the annihilation thing that's coming up, is definitely still the case. And I assume that new number one, which hey, in True Guardians fashion, it will probably, will play into that heavily.
Yes,
because
that's what they tend to do. They tend to come out of those big events,
especially Annihilation, because that's how the current iteration, or the MCU / current iteration of Guardians came from.
Absolutely.
So hey,
I remember it well.
I vaguely remember.
Kind of scary how long ago that was.
I never read. I will say this again. I've never really read Annihilation. I did read Guardians coming out of it, sort of, which is kind of hard to do considering they're so tied to Annihilation, especially coming in and out to that whole series. So I do remember reading a few issues, but I was more of the classic Guardians.
No, of course. Alrighty. So President Bartlett.
What's next?
Ooh, I think we might be good for heading into rapid fire, unless you
do Invaders real quick.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So what I like about this issue, and it feels like this has all been leading up to the whole Namor thing, has all been leading up to this issue. This is the issue that has the heart-to-heart, talking to that no other book, including Cap and Avengers, could tell. This is strictly an invader's tale about not leaving your war buddies behind and dealing with, there's a certain bond that that veterans have with members of their units, and that's something that they really couldn't explore in the pages of Cap or the pages of the Avengers, despite the fact that Namor definitely had a story in Avengers was at the beginning of the run, right?
Right. It's almost as if they did that to set this up for
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So, but yeah, so what this is, I'm just going to read off my notes real quick. Fanfic cover gives way to AO3 Dreams. If you know what AO3 Dreams or AO3 is, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
And I'm like, wait a second. When I read that, I was like, what? I was like, what?
Okay. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Flashback to right after Steam came back, after Namor threw Cap away to be found in the first place, assuming that's still canon, because they didn't bring that up in here, but well,
neither of them remember.
Well, that is also true, but I know, right? See, that's the kind of thing I want to see. It's like, yeah, man, I was in a certain place and I threw this big chunk of ice into the water. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd you throw it? So tell me you're the one that so it's because of you I got found in the first place. Oh, and there was a bro hug there. That's again, fanfic dreams. Anyway, Cap lets his shield down because we're used to seeing shield. I mean, we used to seeing Cap in a certain way, being the rallying force and all upbeat, but he kind of lets that down just a tad with Namor. One of the only other people who would understand him in a certain light,
right? Because
being war buddies, like you said,
exactly. Like other than Bucky, there's really no one else. So,
right. So that was this was a all around.
I was about to say just very quickly, it used to be Nick Fury, but they've done so much to that character.
Well, yeah, that character is not even that character anymore. He's again speaking of people who are on the moon who should have seen some stuff going on.
Exactly.
But they haven't really used too much of that lately. So anyway, there's some Xavier blame going on there. There's Namor owns up to some of his stuff, but then later goes back to his old self. And Cap calls him out on it. Like this whole issue was really good, just on the exposition point. And the couple of questions that I have was, one, how long were they even on this island? Because one, either Cap grows a beard real fast, or clearly this was more than a 3-hour tour.
Yeah.
But I was like, wait, how long were they even on this island? Because they ended up finding a way off of it that was on the island, just if they had just, I guess, look. And I assume they had been charting it out from what what was alluded to in the middle of the book.
Right. Like
Right.
you would think that that Cap would maybe have like a couple days stubble growth, but no, he's all like
Yeah, he's like
he-
full
he's
beard.
all Endgame. Yeah, I was about to, he's all Infinity War Cap.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And meanwhile, Namor, who you would think would be in the same state, just still got his goatee. His
Right, he's got a little bit of growth, but nothing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And granted, now he's newly human. Well, he was newly human. That got taken care of real quick. But I was like, that's like, what is the time frame here? That doesn't make any kind of sense. But at the same time, it was like comics, you got to go with it.
Right.
But regardless, it all is in service of them to having a real long heart to heart about things that have been going on. But it appears that the invaders, as a group, at the end of this issue, is seemingly back in full force.
Right. And this series is going to end at issue number 12 next month.
Right.
So we will see how this resolves itself and how the characters may move into that that new version of Atlantis Attacks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I just made Roddykat, do a spit take.
So you did see the caption they had. I mean the panel they had where they brought that up, right?
Sure.
Yeah, the old Atlantis. Well, actually, it wasn't even that old Atlantis attack. It was when Namor first attacked the New York back in the FL days.
40s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was just funny. I was like, okay, that's an interesting headline to use, knowing that what's either coming and or what has already happened. So that was pretty funny. Well done. So shout out to Sadowski and crew for this whole series, before we even get to the next issue, because it's been quite interesting, to say the least.
Yes.
Especially when we didn't know, where it was going to go and what. Like there's some stuff that is, especially in this issue, that may reverberate a little bit, because they do bring up Roxxon's dealing and the mutant drug that they talk about, or whatever the case may be, which I feel like I can't remember if that's actually been something that was shown somewhere. I think it was, but I'm not sure, because I feel like it was, but I'm not even sure. But it probably didn't even matter at this point. But regardless, Roxxon's dealings are all over the place. So
right. I mean, even the Hulk is going to be dealing with them soon. So
exactly. So there's a lot for continuity's sake that I've been enjoying about Marvel lately.
Alrighty.
So that being the case, I guess we can go into rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Let me go.
Sure. I just remembered that I read something that I didn't add to the list.
Oh, good. Why don't I give you time to do that? So, I'm gonna start with a book that I neglected to talk about last week, and I'm mad for myself because it was really good. Lois Lane number 5 came out last week. I had it in my notes, but I didn't put it in my notes because I think I erased that part of the note when I did the thing. Regardless, Lois gives a life lessons on journalism and sourcing, as Renee Montoya, as the question takes down a league. I continue to enjoy this book. I know it's only 12 issues, but like I said, I have said before that this kind of rings kind of like Gotham PD or Gotham Central, which makes sense because Greg Rucka was part writer on that also. And I enjoyed that book, or at least what I've read of that book, and this still has kind of shades of that in its tone, and I really, really like it. So you should definitely check out Lois Lane. It's not just, hey, they're like, yeah, Clark and Superman shows up, whatever. That what has less to do with anything than not. I'm not even sure where this book is even, if there's a place this book is going to get to. Obviously, it's going to end at 12, but I mean, I don't know if there's, something revelatory that's going to come out of this. I don't know, but I mean, so far we've seen like a tie-in with Legion of Superheroes and Superman showing up obviously, and this and that other stuff. But regardless, it just could be just a nice neat story with Lois doing her thing. It's a cool thing. Anyway, Forest Sector #1. So this is the Green Lantern. I think it's a miniseries. I can't remember actually. Written by science fiction author N.K. Jemisin, whose work I am familiar with her, but not necessarily her work. This is basically a Green Lantern has been sent off to the far reaches of space to police a certain area that may or may not be, probably just off the bounds of the Guardians' territory or whatever the case may be. But I'm enjoying it because it's basically, hey, you put there has been some Green Lantern stories that's been like, hey, space cop. But this is pretty much, hey, this is homicide detective Green Lantern, in unknown territory with a world that has not really dealt with murder in a while. So she's pretty much dealing with that and navigating her way through, herself as I guess a fairly newish lantern, but they don't really get into too far into her backstory as of yet. In a unfamiliar surroundings, being a cop, and I kind of enjoy those kind of stories. Like I talk about all day long about how Thor's was basically, the Thor Corps, but just homicide life on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of has a little bit of something like that, but not to the same effect. That being the case, the Jamal Campbell art is great. Like I've seen some people say on Twitter, it's like, yeah, the art is worth the price of admission itself, but there's more to the book than just that. Some of the naming in the book is kind of amusing, but also slightly eye-rolling because there are some real-life parallels. It's like, oh, really? As I put it in my notes, like Darmok and the real world inspired. And if you know what Darmok is, you
that's some Star Trek stuff.
That is some Star Trek stuff. So, but I'm looking forward to checking out more of this stuff. It's
shout out to Captain Picard.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more of this. And so I might even get a physical copy. I'm thinking. Future Foundation #4. So after the revelation of last issue, where Legia, Johnny Storm's ex-wife, the scroll that comes up as the butt of the jokes with him, shown up in this book, but she goes back into disguise as the Maker plays his hand, and then some shenanigans happen on the ship, and leading to I guess kind of a cliffhanger. I don't know what's a cliffhanger in a comic book these days. Well, this is still a cliffhanger, but regardless, it's almost like, hey, the kids were playing Home Alone, basically, with the Maker and his crew, but then some things end up happening that may have turned the tides. We'll see in the incoming issues. So we already talked about that. Star Wars #74. So this is the penultimate issue of Star Wars because, as we know, they are going to start with a new #1 next year. I think in January, actually. Restarting after Empire Strikes Back or Return. I think it's after Empire. Yeah. And of course, Charles Soule will be writing, so I'm looking forward to that. But regardless, we have all three. We have the three sets of teams, or the three sets of folks on their individual missions. But in this issue, they are all virtually brought back together because all of their missions are kind of coming to a head. We see Chewbacca and 3PO on this one planet that they were going to destroy to get rid of the Empire, but Darth Vader's there to put a kink in the things. Han and Leia got set up, so now they have to go up against a Star Destroyer and a shuttle. And Han hatches this crazy plan that has to deal with the other two teams, what they're doing at the time, because they're all in kind of a bit of trouble. And then Luke's on this one of the other planet where he meets this young lady who's kind of a grifter, I guess you could kind of say, because she was kind of leading him off a little bit, but she finally told him some realness, and then he kind of goes off to help his friends and leaves her to, I guess, thinking about herself, whatever. she almost felt like a Dr. Aphra to me, but not quite. Which I'm kind of glad they didn't go to that because like we already got Dr. Aphra. She's already around. Her book's still kicking. But yeah, like I said, this is kind of leading up to next issue's final issue. Something happens with 3PO, which I'm hoping doesn't foreshadow his fate in Rise of the Skywalker, because there's that trailer did not give me any good feels about what might be going on with him. Of course, that could be a swerve. We don't know because trailers don't always tell the truth. But regardless, something happens in here. It's like, okay, well, that happened. And Chewbacca rocks Vader. That's all I'm gonna say. Which the panel, the page of that is in itself just funny. So you have to check that out for yourself.
Right. It's a tease from the cover.
Yeah, basically. But not to the same. But yeah, it just happens in a different way. Well, actually, technically, the cover does kind of happen. And yeah, Chewbacca's kind of in the way at the end of that issue also. So, but obviously, they're not gonna kill him. That'd be crazy. And last but not least, and I know you've read this yourself, Black Cat Annual #1.
Yes.
I enjoyed this issue. I enjoyed this annual. Like we've been enjoying Black Cat this whole time, and this one's not that much different because it's just her pulling off a heist, but in longer form because it's an annual. But she's got your friend in mind, the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man in tow for a part of it. But you also see that her crew on their various parts of the same mission, and you get their perspectives on things. And as I said in my notes, Doc's "I made myself" attitude is a current political climate's wet dream.
Yeah.
Only shadowed by his sense of self-purpose, self-importance. Then I'm like, oh wait, that still plays. But of course, you find out a little bit more about Bruno, but we kind of knew if you've been reading his book. It's like, yeah, clearly there's more to him than all that. But it all comes together at the end with a nice little, some would say, social media bit that only plays in context here with a "Bye, Felicia," which I thought was amusing because I didn't even think about it when I first saw it. It was like he was just saying, it was like "Bye, Felicia," and then I was like, oh right, that was a thing that was going around on social media.
Right. And I give Jed McKay a ton of credit.
Yeah.
He has taken this character who at times has been played for a one note, and definitely given her depth and given her crew, her chosen family, a lot of depth. And it's really caused the book to shine. And I generally do not like going to buy annuals. I pick this particular annual up, and of course there's a physical reason for it because there was a J. Scott Campbell cover. But I enjoyed this story immensely, and I know one other member of our panel enjoyed it as well.
Indeed. And yeah, there was, I wouldn't say it was a little bit of a hype, but it kind of was to going into this issue based on what we knew and who was going to be a part of it, and and their part in it, which that does kind of play out, but not the way you think it does.
Right.
And in relation to what happens in the book. So it's, it is what it is on that one, but still, it still worked out quite nicely.
Right.
So you're up.
Yeah, I have to say that the Black Cat series in 2019 has probably been my most pleasant surprise in terms of titles.
We don't have that category, but we can add it. I'm just kidding.
Because that is, in all seriousness, something that I underestimated. I am glad to be proven wrong in that regard.
Actually, I think we may do have that that category, so you may want to remember that.
Hold on to that. Absolutely. All right. Just a few books from myself that Roddykat and I did not read in common. Morbius #1. I'm not spoiling this because I know that Roddykat intends to read it. Ava Ayala tells a tale of Morbius doing some good.
Vita.
Art by Vita.
Yeah.
Why did I say Ava?
I know you did that last week too, but
Wait, is that somebody real?
Maybe. Wait, isn't that White Tiger?
Yes, that's why. I'm like, wait, that's an actual name. I didn't make it up.
Right.
Vita
Yeah,
Ayala.
yeah, 'cause she showed up in that. She showed up in that. Well, very briefly in that Marvel Contagion book.
Right. I mean, she's definitely played a role in recent comic book history, so it's very funny that that's what sticks in my head. And if I ever go to meet her at a con, I'm probably going to meet her as Ava, and I'm
Right.
probably not the only one because it just sticks in your head. So
Yeah, I've not read a lot of their stuff, but I some of the stuff I've read of theirs is pretty good, you know. So and I'm not a big Morbius fan, so I'm definitely reading it for them.
right for her take on this. So I'll just tell you that Vita Ayala tells a tale of Morbius doing some good, while it's the art that really sets the stage, by penciler Marcelo Ferreira, inker Roberto Poggi, and colorist Dono Sanchez Almara evokes the appropriate amount of scary in the mood of the book. So there's definitely I I I hesitate to compare it to Gene Colan, but he did a lot of that Blade and vampire stuff back in the 60s and 70s.
Mm.
That's definitely what I thought it was invoking, at least in terms of a mood, not in terms of an art style, but definitely a mood. So um, it definitely fits the book, and we'll see. There is a minor cliffhanger at the end of the book, so the second issue should prove interesting.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna put in here. I said they because that is the pronoun that they want to be known as, Vita Ayala. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And I said they is the whole group.
So I wasn't just saying that out of nowhere.
Right.
But, yeah,
I
yeah.
understand. So next up is Ronin Island number 8. This book continues to impress. There's a couple of great character moments in here because Hana, the lead character, her decision at the end of the last issue, and we see the aftermath at the beginning of this issue, come at great personal cost, and the stakes just get deadlier when the nature of the plague actually changes. Next up is Event Leviathan number 6. So we finally find out who Leviathan is. DC fans will continually try to convince me that this is at least semi-interesting. I read it nonplussed. The next book is Detective Comics number 1015. Yes, it does sound weird. Nora Freeze strikes back, and in this time of female empowerment, it sounds exactly like what would happen in the Freeze relationship, given what has brought them back together. So that is a very vague description of how this book plays out, but having read it and had a little bit of time to digest it, I definitely understand where she's coming from. Lastly, I realized that I had read this but had neglected to type any notes down. The last book I've got for this week is Punisher Soviet number 1. This is Garth Ennis back on the Punisher with a back-to-basic story that is still rooted in today's reality. Someone is doing Frank's work for him, and the Russian mob is giving Frank some undeserved credit. And Frank, he's got to look into this and see what's what. So it is a pretty fun Punisher story that does not involve going to Bagalia, does not deal with Baron Zemo or the War Machine armor. Some people like that, and that's definitely a fun diversion from a Punisher story. But something like this is definitely the back to basics Punisher type story.
Right. So this is not Red Sun Punisher.
No,
Nor is it
it's not an Elseworlds story like that. No.
Okay. Cool. That was something else I was gonna bring up, but I don't remember what it is. It's probably just as well. So cool. I think and that is it for you, right?
Yep, that is it.
Flicks of the week.
All right, we've got at least one from our hosts who are not here today.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good pick. It's a damn good pick.
It is. It is. That is Tim DOGG98.
Mm-hmm.
His click of the week is Black Cat Annual #1.
Yeah, exactly. We're fans of that series, so it's a damn good pick.
It's definitely a candidate for click of the week for myself as well.
Yep, same here.
So I've got a little bit of a problem because I definitely liked Invaders and Guardians this week.
Mm.
And those are the two main contenders with a Black Cat Annual. I wasn't 100% enthusiastic about Fallen Angel, so that's not a leading contender for my click of the week this week.
I was going to ask you. Yeah, neither one of us read History of the Marvel Universe, which, granted, I mean, it is what it is, but
right. It's a history book,
right? But that did.
And there's one more issue coming out this
right.
for this series, so that should take us to present day.
Yeah, but I still want to read. I need to read. I think I didn't read last one either, but read this one, the last one, just to see if it touches on some stuff that I guess getting closer to current stuff, you know, would play out. Obviously, I can't give the Lois Lane because that was last week, but I would if I could, because even after we finished recording last week, I did go out on Twitter and was like, yeah, that could have been it had I thought about it and put it in and said something.
I'm gonna back up Tim,
okay.
And I'm gonna go with the Black Cat Annual #1.
Again, solid pick. Yeah, for me, because like X-Men 2 was good, Guardians was good. I mean, you know, Ages of Atlas was decent. That Far Sector book, while it started out a certain way, I was like, okay, that like I would like to see more of this. So it became of more interest to me than what initially
and how it started.
Well, then the way I thought about it going into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say. I'm just going to say I think Gideon Falls came out this week. I'm just going to go ahead and give that one the dirt.
Yeah, I think so.
That's usually a solid pick for him. Right. I did have another one for him.
I was about to say sometimes he opts for detective as well, so that's
also true.
Right, that's why it's a little tough, but I think your Gideon Falls pick is solid.
Yeah, for him, anywho. For myself, you know what? I think I'm actually going to go with X-Men 2. Because, you know, if you ever thought about two landmasses bumping uglies, this is the one that would put that picture in your head. Could have been Invaders for the fanficness of it, but nah. But those of you fanfic people, go pick up Invaders #11 and go to town. Even if you just look at the cover, just, you know, you can make so much out of that. That's all I'm saying. So with that, we go on.
Goodness gracious.
Into the
Our first ad read of the night is for My Comic Shop. Today's podcast is sponsored by My Comic Shop. Go to cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, click on the My Comic Shop banner and order from a vast selection of new releases, back issues, vintage classics, graphic novels, and more to be delivered right to your door. If you do not have a comic book store close to you that you can get your books from, you can order your books online by going to My Comic Shop through cspn.us. Do it today. Time for the news.
Yes, we start off as we tend to do every week with animated news, and of course my soundboard is not up to snuff because there was a particular sound effect that I really wanted to put on here that I thought I put on here and I did not. So I did it to myself. Darn me all the heck. Which will come clear as we get into the news. But first off, glad sings the praises of Batwoman, Supergirl, and other Arrowverse shows. So, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, GLAAD, has praised the
It's
CW.
not the trash bag company.
No, it is not. The CW's Arrowverse for its LGBTQ plus representation. The organization says in its annual Where We Are on TV report that queer representation on TV is an all-time high. The report particularly points out the Ruby Rose-led Batwoman series and the rest of the Arrowverse, including The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. I'm just going to go ahead and put Black Lightning on here because before Batwoman came along, there was definitely a queer character on there that goes unnoticed, even by writers. But we can go into that one another time. But yeah, that's pretty much that on that. I think that was according to GLAAD, 10.2% of series regulars on broadcast TV this year are LGBTQ plus. Other shows recognized in the report include ABC's Stumptown and Ryan Murphy's trans woman-led Pose.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, next up, the Batwoman CW show name drops 2 major Batman villains. So in the wake of Batwoman kind of opening up the vault on Batman characters for the CW,
as we figured what's going to happen, given what Supergirl.
Right, it had to. Right. It had to. Like we have done stories over the course of our years on broadcasting on the fact that the CW shows basically were, I guess the best way to put it, was embargoed from dealing with too much Batman stuff. But now with the obvious, with the introduction of Batwoman, that is off the table. And now they have introduced, by reference, a couple of Batman villains, namely Jack Napier, aka the Joker,
or a version of
exactly the Burton the Burton version. And I'm wondering who the second one is.
The execute. Well,
it's think of Burgess Meredith.
All right, Penguin.
There's my hint.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty on the nose hint, but sure, okay. But yeah. So yeah, that's the thing that's happening, and yeah, it seemed like they quietly just we're just gonna start putting stuff, because you started noticing things with Arrow. It's like, wait a minute, that's kind of a Batman. And then, of course, with the articles that we've talked about in the past about, especially going into the crossover events where Batwoman came out of, obviously, and more references to stuff in the Bat family and stuff that just kind of just quietly stuck out there into the Arrowverse until this. I'm like, well, I guess it was coming here after all, as opposed to what they were saying prior. So. I guess it's a good thing. I mean, Arrow's going off the air, so somebody's got to take up the mantle.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Batwoman, Batwoman's true identity is discovered by somebody. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not up on the show, so this would be a spoiler if I knew what the heck was going on. But someone closer to Kate finds out who she is. Let's just say that. And not surprised, because given how the Arrowverse's propensity to tell anybody and everybody the secret identities, not big of a surprise. Not as big a surprise as you'd think it would be at this point. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, the first Crisis on Infinite Earths teaser is a short, sweet glimpse of everyone coming together. Justice League land-based. That's a JLA Avengers reference for those of you few who might remember that. We've got Superman, Batwomen, Arrows, Black Lightning, and everyone's all here. So get ready for it, folks.
Yep, in a few short weeks, we will have this, and I will probably still not get caught up because of, what we'll talk about in a little bit. Actually, it won't be that, just me being lazy. But regardless, Black Lightning has become an active war zone. I see here Scooter staring down somebody. I guess I'm assuming with a character. I need to stop calling him that. That's not. He hasn't called by that in years, and I'm sure if he saw me in prison, probably beat my ass. So apparently, with the bulk of Freeland in living while the book of Freeland is living under the American Security Agency's control, Anissa, in her Blackbird guise, is doing all she can to ensure the city's population of metahumans can live freely, and one hopes to escape safely. It sounds like they're doing something. My computer is like really going off, so hopefully you can't hear that. But
Yeah, we can, but it's okay. Go on.
yeah. Well, sorry about that. I got a lot of tabs open. Regardless, so it sounds like they're doing something similar to what a Civil War-ish type situation. And oh wait, it says that Black Lantern has been using the supposed attack on the Markovians, which if you know Batman and the Outsiders, and also last season of Young Justice, you have kind of seen some of that stuff play out to give his heroes a reason to be on high alert. But the past few episodes have made it clear that the war is already in Freeland and is only going to get more brutal. So yeah, sounds like there's a war going on out here. The man is safe from. You can run, but you can't hide forever from these street styles we done took.
Yeah.
You walk with your head down, scared to look, shook. I'm just going to stop right there because you already bobbing your head. You know what I'm talking about. Next up.
The Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, has cast a newcomer in a mysterious role. So it's added another new name to the ranks of the cast, this time adding a Jamie Lawson in a mysterious role. So
speculation being Barbara Gordon, because as we know, Jeffrey Wright is playing Commissioner Gordon. So that's where a lot of people's heads went to. I'm just going to put out there, it's probably young Leslie Tompkins.
Could be.
I'm probably wrong, and it's probably Barbara Gordon. So maybe not be, or maybe could be somebody brand new. We don't know.
We have no idea.
Signs are, or at least speculations point to Barbara Gordon, though. So we'll see. In stupid people news, Aquaman 2 petition calls for Amber Heard's removal from the film. A new petition calls for Amber Heard to be removed from the cast of Aquaman 2 following reported allegations of the actor as a domestic abuser of her former husband, Johnny Depp, which I believe she has gone on to say that it's the other way around or something like that. I don't know. I don't get into all that craziness, but it's so sad. As of this writing, the remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2 petition created by Gene Larson has over 30. You know what? It's a petition. Whatever. The allegations are serious, and even if this is the case, they are to be taken serious. But come on, people with these stupid ass petitions need to stop. Like if there is something out of this, and let it be handled in the way it's supposed to be handled. And if they decide to do something with her and that, if it comes out to be the case, so be it. But fans are stupid. Like this whole Snyder Cut thing is also a whole different stupidity thing that people are still doing. But that's again a whole separate situation. But apparently it's got a lot of signatures regardless and out of the goal. So but that still doesn't say that whether the petition is going to come in as anything actionable.
All righty.
So
next up,
she said at the end of it all.
There you go. According to Deadline, Joseph and Anthony Russo are producing a documentary series based on Reed Tucker's nonfiction book Slugfest inside the epic 50-year battle between Marvel and DC for the streaming service Quibi. And you know what my reaction to this story was? And it's a little mixture of what and who, because Quibi.
Actually, I would also say the same for the book because I'd never heard of this book either. So yeah, so that's the thing that sounds like it's probably going to happen. And it looks like this service is set to launch April 6th.
Oh, the service hasn't started yet. Okay,
right. So yeah, so I guess yet another streaming service. Yay!
Yeah, and we'll get to that later.
So yeah, indeed. But yeah, yeah, that's the thing that happened. And wow, why did they have Terminus over there in the corner? Like,
what's that? The JLA Avengers?
I guess not.
JLA Avengers #1.
Yeah, I know. Wait, oh right, he was a part of that, wasn't he?
He was the Marvel villain that crossed into the DC universe.
Oh god, I forgot so much about that, and there's no way to read
Yeah,
that.
Starro was the first. What are you talking about? There's no way to read it. Oh, because it's out of print.
Right.
That
Oh,
is correct. That is, yeah, and it won't be on any of the comic services. I've got like many versions of this book.
yeah, I don't think I do, but yeah. Anyway, next up, Marvel's She-Hulk and Moon Knight shows just landed their leaders.
Yay!
Yeah, right. Which there's some more Moon Knight news later on in the show, but I couldn't squeeze it in at the moment. So Hollywood Reporter broke the news that Jessica Gao, not to be confused with Madame Gao of the Daredevil series, who won an Emmy for the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty, has been hired to develop and write the She-Hulk show, while Jeremy Slater, best known for The Exorcist, probably the new version, I'm assuming. And well, and Umbrella Academy most recently will do the same for Moon Knight. Gal said, I've been chasing She-Hulk for so long. This is the definition of a dream come true," as she tweeted the news. So cool.
All right. Speaking of Disney Plus news, Kevin Feige confirmed that She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Moon Knight will appear in movies after Disney Plus shows. This was in one of the short documentaries that was available for streaming.
Yes, which I haven't gotten around to. Actually, there's some more news about that, which I'm not sure if I put that in there or not. And I did not, so I'll just go ahead and say in here. So Feige also came out and said, and maybe in the course of this or something, the way basically saying that you would need to watch the shows in order to basically see what's keep up with what's going on in the MCU in the movie form, basically. So basically, the stuff that's coming out on the streaming services is going to play into the which we did talk about that stuff, right? It's confirmed that
they've definitely been more explicit about what you need to have watched and what's going to feed into which movie.
Exactly. And which again, yeah, and like I said, we kind of sort of knew all this stuff, but the confirmation is now there, and which gave people a lot of feelings one way or the other about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this is great to know, because all of these folks, I mean, I'm not necessarily that plussed about Moonlight, but hey, Shulky and Miss Marvel, I definitely want to see it on big screen. So that's awesome. I mean, I don't know, a good Moon Knight would be good to see, but yeah, it is what it is. Sam Wilson gets a dramatic new costume in the Falcon and Winter Soldier preview.
In that same short documentary preview.
Yeah, a lot of things came out. So this looks like, I dare say this costume looks like the one from Avengers Mighty United We Stand.
It's
I
was about to say it's definitely in that vein, but I think it's definitely taking cues from not Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but Avengers Assemble, the follow-up.
Right.
Which
they were all a sort of armored kind of, well, this is not armored, but there was a.
Well, we don't know yet. That's the thing. Like, we don't know.
No, I'm saying those ones.
Right.
But yeah, like we don't know about this one. This is like kind of a mock-up. But yeah, those ones kind of took, those were more of in a couple of those cases were more of an armored type. Because especially with United We Stand, they had the whole transformation sequence for a lot of those Jokers, which I'm always enjoy. But it is.
I haven't watched it. I'm dreading watching it, but we do have access to it now.
Yes, we do. And I'm just going to say there's an article out there that's basically talking smack about Earth. I may have it in the clickbait section. I can't remember, but I am not here for no kind of slander on United We Stand. Yes, it's not the greatest Avengers one, but it also had half of the wackos in it, and I'm not going to hear any slander.
Just
I have spoken.
In closing about this particular story, shout out to Anthony Mackie, who was definitely down to have a more spandex-like take on the Falcon's costume. He has been down from day one for, and he said it in multiple interviews. I've heard it in multiple interviews that he was down to have the Falcon's appearance more closely resemble what's in the comics.
Well, yeah, because it never
sooner
really
rather than later.
no. The Falcon's costume never really obscured his face, so he could still get his, a good bit of a screen time in.
Right. No, but in terms of just the spandex and the colors, that's what he was really gunning for, and he's finally got his wish.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool.
All
There was an article out there about Winter Soldier's new look, but I forgot to put it in there. So
that's okay. I mean, it doesn't look all that different. It's just
not really.
It's a more clean cut look. That says a lot.
Yeah.
What if Captain Carter episode introduces a different Iron Man? Same documentary, the Expanding the Universe documentary on Disney Plus also revealed this, and this was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, I saw the a little gif of it, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" You see Cap and
it's totally worth watching this documentary, though.
Almost like a Gundam, but it's more Iron.
A little bit more Iron Giant.
Yeah. So yeah, we were in the same place. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, go do that. And if you have access to Disney Plus, you can go check that out because I'm pretty sure that's where a good bit of the stuff is coming from, like you said.
Yep.
What If debut first look at Marvel Zombies episode, again from the same
same documentary.
From the same documentary, yes. So yeah, that basically that documentary was the biggest promo for stuff that's upcoming. Which surprise. Okay, yeah. But yes, you get some first shots of the Zombies episode.
Yes. Speaking of Disney Plus, it has come to Amazon's Fire TV devices, where there was some speculation that it wasn't going to be there on day and date of release. It was. Thank you, corporate giants, for getting together on this so I could watch this on my TV and use Fire Stick to do it.
So yeah, well, there was another article out there again that said that the Vizio TVs were not going to get it until 2020, which I don't know too many people who have Vizio TVs outside of like my mom and a couple other people. So that's
my Samsung TV, the one Samsung TV I've got, is still having some problems. So it hasn't, like I've got all these super modern apps, but not Disney Plus, and I'm like, what the hell? Right.
And I think there was I think either Tim or somebody, I know there was some people saying that Roku was having an issue and didn't get it. So I know for me, to just go kind of get into it really, really quick, the mobile version was out like 3:00 in the morning.
Okay.
The console apps for like Xbox and PS3, I think they came out around 6. They were definitely up around 6 after I got up. And yes, if you know the time frame, that wasn't a whole lot of time to sleep. I know that, but whatever. But yeah, and there was issues about that, which we'll get into that a little bit more in a little bit. So yes, you can still get that Disney Plus bundle if you already have a subscribe to Hulu. So this is not that Verizon thing. Well, actually, this has nothing to do with it. So basically, this is saying like, hey, if you got into the Disney Plus only thing and you still want to subscribe to Hulu, or you already have Hulu and you want to combine the two, this article goes into how you go about doing that, basically. And apparently it's a little bit of a step. So, yeah, which we won't go 2 minutes for, but it sounds like you kind of got to sign up for both and then go into the other and blah, 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 blah. But hey, you can go check that out there at your leisure. Next.
All right. So what are we up to? The offensive stuff?
Yeah.
All right. So Disney Plus apparently does not cut offensive scenes from some classic films that they released in the pool of stuff that's available through Disney Plus.
But they do put a nice, they do put a warning at the beginning of the film saying, hey, was done. They basically say this was done at a different time, which you can, if you're watching the video, you can see. Nope, that's not it. Well, basically there's a thing before the movie starts saying, hey, this was done at a different time, and that kind of warning.
Right. It would be nice if the language was a little stronger, but
yes,
they do acknowledge the fact that there is a warning is necessary.
Mm-hmm. And also worth noting, I don't think, and then they and I'm not bucking for this by any means, so I don't want anybody thinking they're the one probably most offensive movie that they could put on there is not on the surface, and hopefully it probably won't be on there.
Right.
That said, But yeah, the stuff from the other movies that was already in there still is in there. Just which is slightly funny, given and I don't have this in the article in lineup either. But apparently, that The Simpsons is on that thing, but they don't have the Michael Jackson episode. And people
Really?
Yeah, I saw articles about that going around.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's people, please, just like hey, people have been looking for stuff, and so it is what it is on that one.
Okay. All right.
And I think there's even something that's going a little further because I think there might be something with the aspect ratio or something on The Simpsons. I don't even know, but that was one big thing people were kind of pointing out about that stuff. So,
right. Bear in mind, I was about to say, and ladies and gentlemen, bear in mind that we're still in the nascent stages of Disney Plus release, so a lot of this stuff may change over the next several weeks and months.
Maybe, yeah. Like I said on Twitter, like I'm just happy to know that Disney's not immune to having first day issues.
Oh, they definitely don't. Listen, I whatchamacallit, I was semi binging Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends over the last few days, and I was on my Mac, my computer, and I was just going through the web browser to watch, and one of the episodes is showing up twice on the playlist, on the list, and I was like, oh, that's just a little glitch, but it didn't show up when I looked at it on the Fire Stick earlier this evening. So
sure,
first day, second day, first week glitches.
I mean, yes, this stuff's going to happen with any service like that, and have so like I said, it was it was annoying at the time, but it was good to see that there, it wasn't a flawless launch. But anyway, speaking of not flawless, Disney Plus password sharing addressed by Disney's CEO. So Bob Iger basically comes out and says that, hey, we set up a service that's very family friendly. We expect families to be able to consume it 4 live streams at a time. For instance, we'll watch it carefully with various technology tools that we have available to us to monitor it. But obviously, it's something we have to watch. So they're basically saying that, hey, we know people. At least that is what I'm getting out of it. We know people are going to share their passwords out of this stuff, but just know that we're watching.
Exactly.
That is my take off of it. Anywho, including I know I had someone ask me for that earlier, and then I was like, oh, okay, sure, I could do it, but let me point you over to this Verizon thing. Not specifically because I didn't want to do it, but it was just like, well, hey, if you're going to get it on your own, because you don't know whatever. So, yeah, it is a thing. Next up.
All right. Apparently, some Disney Plus movies may already have expiration dates, which is contrary to what I had read.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm just reading this news story now.
So the TLDR of this is basically somebody dug into the files and noticed that some of the movies have an expiration date. However, there is nothing outright saying that they are going to hold to those dates or anything.
Right.
So, in other words, when this comes out, we don't know if they're actually going to come off of the service or not.
My understanding was that, and what I had read in the hype leading up to the service launch, was that they weren't going to take off anything and were just going to add. So it's contrary. This is contrary to what my understanding was, based on what I had read.
I had heard rumblings that some stuff might end up coming off, but I can't remember but nothing like major, I believe. But again, that was all hearsay, so that's just don't take that for anything. So it is what it is. Like I say, if this happens to be the case and they're not servicing that, because well, I mean, hell, Netflix doesn't. So well, actually, they have surface stuff at times, and they do they do have the where hey, this is coming off of here and there and other. We're still early yet, so we don't know. We'll see. Disney Plus will not be adding Spider-Man movies to its library because Sony's property.
Right.
I mean, granted, some were probably confused at the fact that there's Spider-Man cartoons. That's another license. Right. Well, yeah, exactly. They also don't have that one that Sony did because the one that was mystery is I think Spectacular's not on there.
That's correct. That's correct. Spectacular is not on the Marvel is not on the Disney Plus service.
And I think the other CG one is not on there either, which it was
I think those are specifically produced by
right.
Disney.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, not licensed out to another studio to do. What I was going to say is, does this? I'm presuming this article also addresses Homecoming and Far From Home, right?
I think it does. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's disappointing because those are unfortunately kind of integral to understanding some of the stuff that happens in the MCU. So,
but I believe there was another article again out there saying that hey, they're that Disney's trying to get that stuff, but you know it is what it is.
Right.
Also mentions a couple other movies that are not on there, but you know that stuff's coming, like Black Panther.
Exactly, Black Panther, Infinity War.
Right.
You know, all that stuff's still on Netflix.
Exactly. So, and again, that stuff's coming. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, I'm like, yeah, you could be bummed about it, but you know, and there's reasons to be. But at the same time, like, you know, I don't know. I hate to cop out on this one, but who at this point doesn't have a way to watch those movies?
I mean, ultimately, yeah, that's not even the worst thing. It's just a matter of, you know,
Bummer.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, I wish it was all complete day one. No, that's not the case. So
right, yeah, exactly. They don't even have everything there. They won from whatever, but hey, it is what it is. Hell, I'm more bummed about the Star Wars situation, which we'll get to in a minute.
Is this mine? Okay. Yeah. Watch the cast of The Mandalorian describe its upcoming first season. So there is, what is this? A video interview?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a fun video. Yeah, you can link on our sheet of notes to a video where the cast of the show describes how it differs from the rest of the Star Wars media out there and what word best sums up the show.
Yeah, it's out there on the Star Wars account on Twitter. So if you don't catch it in our show notes, it's out there. And you know, yeah, hashtag Mandalorian, whatever, all that kind of good mess. Speaking of the Mandalorian, as we get into it, the Mandalorian gives a surprise nod to the Star Wars holiday special, which I got to that point and I was like, all right, that was funny. Which we also like, just going off of a little bit, like John Favreau, who is the executive producer of the Mandalorian, you know, we've already said he would want to do redo the holiday special or do another version of the holiday special. So knowing that ahead of when seeing that, it's like, okay, I'm not surprised, but not thinking about it at the time and hearing it show up or hearing the nod show up, it's like, all right.
Didn't he direct the first issue, the first episode?
I believe Filoni did. I can't remember. Honestly, I know he's executive producer. He might have. And actually, it's kind of funny because so little bit of spoilers here.
Spoiler alert for those of you who, for whatever reason, have not yet watched The Mandalorian episode 1. Here comes the bell in 3, 2, 1.
And it's spoiler, but not spoiler, because if you know about the holiday special, you know what time of year it comes out, which is slowly coming up. One, so there's the Star Wars equivalent of Christmas, which is Life Day, and that is the nod to the holiday special that they're talking about. One and two, in the part where that shows up, I thought that the first bounty he goes after, I could have sworn that was John Favreau. It's not, because I was slightly surprised that it wasn't him. Because so at the beginning of the episode, the Mandalorian, whose name we don't know yet, but apparently may have been slipped, goes after a bounty of an alien, and that's where the talk of Life Day kind of comes in, which is again the nod to the holiday special, and also it gave me a genuine chuckle when that scene came about.
All right, so
Life Day is canon, folks.
Okay,
go with it what you will. Next
up, the spoiler bell is still in effect. So for those of you who, for whatever reason, have not watched The Mandalorian first episode yet, shut your ears or click fast forward. The first episode of The Mandalorian doesn't waste much time setting up the drama and between the client, blurgs, and mysterious bounty targets. It's easy to miss the way the show brushes against Star Wars history. One of the best details comes from when the Mandalorian shares a quick exchange with his fellow Mandalore resident, the armorer, about culture and armor. So,
So yeah, and this is all steep back. So this article kind of goes into the stuff that brought up the type of metal that is being used and the significance of it, and other places where stuff has shown up about Mandalorian, including Rebels and Clone Wars, Rebels specifically in a certain section, which at some point before that new season comes, I'm definitely going to binge watch Clone Wars again. But yeah, so if you're interested in that stuff and you've seen the episode, or if you haven't seen the episode and you're still kind of curious, hey, you can check out this article about it.
And by the way, all you folks who want to binge watch Clone Wars, make sure that you take a look at the Star Wars website to get that view.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Trust me, I specifically brought that up for my own benefit, but I definitely brought that up later on.
All righty.
The Mandalorian episode 1, Easter eggs, and that final reveal, which we won't spoil. But
hell no! That was a great final reveal. That's a great cliffhanger. Straight out of straight out of comic book lore. That is a comic book. That is a cliffhanger page. I mean,
sure. Basically,
that whole image is an incredible cliffhanger.
And all I will say about the cliffhanger, about the reveal at the end, is that yes, there are. Somebody even made a joke about it earlier, which I totally forgot anything about, and to even mention that it would spoil it. But let's just say it has something to do with an iconic character, and their species.
Oh yeah,
being around.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably spoiler enough as it is. So
yep.
But yeah, this article has a bunch of Easter eggs that show up, probably including some of that stuff we just talked about with the armor and stuff like that. If I remember correctly from gleaming through this article, but you can check that out if you've actually seen the show. I don't know why you would watch it before you watch the show, but some people are crazy like that.
Sure. Make time in your day to watch this, folks. I watch
if you are inclined, if you're not a Star Wars fan or whatnot, because this is definitely steeped in Star Wars, and I don't know why I have seen somebody out there saying, talking about it's not good because it's too steeped in Star Wars. I'm like, what? Either you are very much
right. Seriously, I watched it over the course of a lunch break, so it is definitely something you can squeeze time for. So
yeah, it's good. It's basically I dare say there's a weird Cowboy Bebop vibe also in it, but that's
a little bit. I definitely get that.
Yeah,
I definitely get that. All right, next up,
I'm just saying it is. But
right. Next up, Pedro Pascal apparently awkwardly said the Mandalorian's real name in an interview. I am not going to say anything. Just that apparently he said it in an interview.
Yeah, in fact, I did not even I got to that point. I basically read this art. Read to where it says spoilers, and I just stopped because
there you go.
I may go back and read it at some point, but at the same time, yeah, let it just be what it is when it gets to where they do it themselves.
Next up,
Star Wars hand shoots first scene changed again, and here's one possible reason why. Buckle in, folks, because I got.
We've already confirmed why. No.
No, I don't believe we did, because no one knew this change happened until this came out. This is another change to it.
Right, but they've already confirmed. Right, they already confirmed that this was a change from Lucas himself.
So, right. Well, we get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, like you just said, yeah. So again, if you watched like I did, the first thing I watched was A New Hope to see what version was.
That's so funny.
And was mad when I found out it was a special edition.
Right.
Stopped before I got to the scene because I didn't, it doesn't take terribly long to find out whether it was or not. Like, yeah, it looks clean, but at a certain point, like, okay, you already know it's special edition or not.
Yep. There's extra animals. There's extra animals.
Yeah. And you're either going to be really pissed or really not, or, whatever about it.
Plus, yeah.
So yeah, so the hand shot first, which was changed for the special edition with with the infamous changes, added another change. They tightened it up the actual shooting part a little bit, and apparently Greedo says something right before
the clunky.
Yes, which apparently, as Agent 70 said, goes back to something that Lucas did. So apparently, Lucas, even before he turned over the keys to Lucasfilm, had a clause put into where he could still affect changes to the original trilogy. And this is where I go into my Meridian Mag and say, why? Stop doing this shit. Stop doing this stuff. You don't need to keep changing it. People grew up on this darn thing the way it was and loved it. You don't have to keep changing the stupid thing just because you don't like your ex-wife. That is my speculation.
Oh no!
Because he also had some dealings with, and that's speculation as to why. There is some very much speculation as to why he made some changes to make special edition. Anywho, sometimes, and I speak to writers and filmmakers, dear folks, and I, as a person who has done some writing, and so I know sometimes it never feels like it's done, but at a certain time when you put it out, it is done, or it should be done to a point. If you want to come back to something later on, sure, whatever. Comics do it all the time. They recon stuff all the time. However, once you put stuff out there, let it be done. Give it to the ether. You keep changing stuff that doesn't, especially if it's already, hey, people like it for what it is already. You don't have to keep changing stuff. There was nothing wrong with the 77 version of Star Wars. People, again, the reason why there's a Phantom for Star Wars is because of the original trilogy. No changes were made. But yet, here's this fool comes along and keeps constantly making changes. Unnecessary changes. Now, granted, yes, this particular one in the McClunky, whatever it is, has something to do with, goes back to, which some would argue he shouldn't have had the keys to this, but this goes back to the prequels. And in fact, goes back to something in Phantom Menace, if I'm not mistaken. And I think this article says as much. So this goes back to that. I don't care. I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter. You have to make this change. It's unfreaking necessary. Anyway, that is under Agent 70s don't like it, but whatever. I can.
No, it's what it is.
And knowing
regardless, it is what it is, and nice.
That's what I got from your whole rant. Like, you know what? Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, kind of. But regardless, so there is a change. So if you haven't watched it yet, just know that there's on, because it's been over the internet. So you can find out about it one way or the other. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is.
I haven't watched it. The first thing I pulled up was The Mandalorian, but
once
I saw that.
Well, like I said, I watched it because I said I didn't even get to this point before seeing this article.
Right. What I was going to say is I caught wind of the news about the special edition and not being surprised by that one, but then the next day I saw online the news about the McClunky, and I was like, what the hell is McClunky? And then I looked deeper into it and I was like, oh no, they didn't, and Lucas did. Anyway,
and I'm saying, like, why does he still have that power? Why? They handed it over. It's like, look, that's it. That's all you get.
Right. I mean, my understanding was that he did it before they.
No, that's what I said earlier. Yeah, he had it put in place before the handover.
Right. So it was post special edition, but pre handover to Disney. So.
Right, but this was a new change. This was exactly new change.
Exactly. That's my point. Exactly. It was something that no one had seen.
So he could go to his death, come back as a Force ghost, and still say, you know what, I want to make another change to these movies. And they'd be like, all right, I got to do it, unless they have a death clause in there, which I doubt.
Anyway,
right along.
So apparently, Mark Hamill explains why Luke had a grappling hook in Star Wars. Wasn't it because he's wearing a stormtrooper belt?
Well, I mean, this is Hamill. Somebody asked him on Twitter, and basically it was somebody's daughter asked through Twitter about it, and of course Hamill gave the most, Mark Hamill answer and said it's standard Princess Rex screen equipment. But basically, yes, you're right.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, moving on.
Yeah,
you got next.
Yeah, no, but yeah, like this article goes into basically what you said, and it's like,
Oh,
but but Hamill was being, Hamill, so it was
sure.
just
It was entertaining. Yeah.
right, and that was the bigger thing out of it. Ghostbusters 2020 will pay tribute to Harold Ramis and Egon Spengler. So yeah, just as expected, I guess. But apparently, I still have yet to see the other Ghostbusters, which I know some people don't like because they don't like women. And it
But
maybe
you
not.
didn't get it. You didn't get it as part of the
I
bundle.
did. Still haven't watched it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I was
Yeah.
about to say, like, that would have sucked if like
Oh
everyone.
no. Yeah, I did. I definitely have it, and I think I had it before that, but from a similar thing.
All right, no, I'm just
yeah.
referring to for those of you in the audience, I'm just referring to the conversion to Movies Anywhere, and it
Right.
became one of the movies that was bundled along whenever you converted your digital library to Movies Anywhere.
Right. But but I bring that movie up to saying is they had a tribute to Harold Ramis in that movie also, and of course Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd was also in that movie, but not as their Ghostbuster selves, but
Right, playing different roles.
exactly. But they did do a tribute there, and according to this little article, Dan Aykroyd came out and said, "I miss him a lot. He was, of course, a really intelligent, great writer and a collaborator. We paid tribute to him in the movie that Paul Feig made with the girls. He was there on a bus, and Billy and I showed up to work on that because we had faith in that vision. So we paid tribute to Harold there, and of course, we'll recognize him in this film in some way, however small."
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go.
So next up, there is a trailer out for the new animated Scooby-Doo movie, and it gives us the first look in at these characters in a modern CG aesthetic.
It's
And
Scooby-Doo Origins.
right, and it has and it teases an origin story for Scooby and at least the relationship between Scooby and Shaggy, from what we see.
I know, actually, it is that plus the makings of the Mystery Inc.
Okay,
Yeah, so all of that kind of comes out as I don't like the voice of Shaggy.
who is it?
Will Forte.
Okay,
And I like Will Forte. I just don't.
you would rather have Matthew Lillard.
I mean, you know what? I still never seen any of those movies. I don't think. Actually, I take it back. I did watch. I think I watched a clip of one of
I mean,
those.
he does a good
Yeah,
Shaggy.
he was pretty good. Yeah, but
I'm not so keen on.
I'm not sure if I care for the Velma one either. But there's the thing about her or surrounding her is it is what it is. I'm not worried about that part. But I don't know. The voice is just obviously I'm going off of the classic voices, so it is what it is on that one. Apparently Blue Falcon is in it, and Mark Falcon. I mean, Mark Wahlberg is playing Blue Falcon.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is going to be a thing. You didn't watch the trailer?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. So yeah, it's out there if you're interested in it. The Shaggy and Scooby stuff in the trailer was actually kind of cute, but at the same time, like, I don't know, the voices were weird. I believe. Wait, yes, Frank Welker is renewing his role as Scooby, which is still weird to me. Frank Welker, you know him, Transformers, every other voice. Exactly, every other voice he's ever done, but he's also done a bunch of animal voices, including Scooby-Doo.
Mm-hmm.
So that one still, rest assured, that one stays the same. Next up.
You got this.
Showtime's Halo TV series cast Jacob and Miranda Keyes. If you're not familiar with the Halo universe, this means absolutely nothing to you. And I don't have enough knowledge in I know that name, but whatever. So David Sapani of Penny Dreadful will play Captain Jacob Keyes, described as a delightful military man, a war hero, and caring father. He finds out that working alongside his daughter and ex-wife is usually the cause for conflict rather than comfort. Olive Gray, Half Moon Investigations, has been cast as his daughter, Dr. Miranda Keyes, a brilliant UNSC commander who is dedicated to understanding the technology, language, and culture of the Covenant. But she'll have to learn to navigate the politics in UNCS to get what she wants. And the friction between father and daughter will be explored in the new series.
Okay.
Sure.
Next
Halo
up.
fans know. Halo fans were on top of every freaking word. Like I said,
Sure.
I know who Keys is, but I haven't played enough for Halo to. I'm not all up on the lore.
If your code name ain't Master Chief, I'm not understanding that. So next up,
Where's that next?
Netflix is adapting the acclaimed comic book series The Sandman. It is actually still in pre-production, but co-creator Neil Gaiman has confirmed that work is already underway for a potential second season. So good on them.
Despite there not being a first season yet. So go figure. I mean, sure. I mean, hey, that happens. And just in case they get picked up, get ahead of it. Cool. Let's see. The Witcher on Netflix has been renewed for a second season. And again, the first season isn't even out yet. So hey, good on Superman. He's got another season under his belt. So the first season of The Witcher on Netflix is still more than a month away, but hopefully fans of the game and the books get a shot of good news as they when Lauren Hisrich revealed that a second season has been confirmed. They're really doubling down on this. Sounds like that. I think we may have said it before. They may have like 7 seasons of this built out because there's a few books. I mean, there's a lot of books in the Witcher series, so I'm not surprised they got a lot of content they can pull from. So go for it. Next up.
All right. So Valiant Entertainment's director of marketing, Mel Kylo, has departed the company for a role at Netflix to work as a synopsis editor for the streaming service. Kylo has had a long career working in the comics industry, starting at Wizard and then moving on to stints at Top Cow, Archaea, Boom, and then most recently Valiant.
So if I get that right, he's going to be the one overseeing the folks who put the flavor text on the movies and TV shows, which in some cases are hilarious and a lot of cases need some help.
Yes.
Because it feels like a lot of stuff is like, did you even watch what you're talking about?
Sounds like they had some interns do it. So
yeah, really, or something. I would have loved to have done that, but then again, that would have had to,
you have to watch it.
Right? Exactly, had to watch a lot of that crap. So that's not always worth it. But some of the stuff on there is quite amusing. Anywho, Sonic the Hedgehog is back with a new look and fewer human teeth. So after the hubbub about the Sonic movies, original CG likeness and social media going very crazy over it, this is old news that they were going to affect these changes, but apparently the changes has been put into this new trailer that just came out, and it's, hey, he looks more Sonic-like now.
Oh yeah, he definitely looks like he's ripped from the screen. So
yeah, and apparently Tyson Hesse was brought on board, who I know is who is a Tyson fan, is a Sonic fan, and I believe I feel like we know that name in the comics section. I know that name from somewhere, I can't remember else. Had a hand in the redesign, so hence why he looks more. If you're watching the video, you can see the the differences between the old Sonic and the new Sonic.
Right, they're subtle for casual viewers. That's the thing.
Well,
For
I guess
casual viewers, it's a subtle change, but for those of us who had at least some exposure to the Sega video game, it's definitely a step in the right direction.
the human teeth was really weird. Like, did they try to put did they put a little person in a Sonic bootleg Sonic costume and just play like it was CG or something, or what's going on?
That was a conscious choice, and somebody made the wrong one.
Yeah, basically, but and I saw somebody on Twitter was like, "You see what bullying and shaming does for you?" As if to talk about body shaming.
I don't know. I think it was constructive criticism. So
I mean, no. It was. I assumed they meant it as a joke. I don't know, but at the same time, there is something to it. But because let's face it, people get body shamed all the time. It's not that far different from what happened here, but different strokes, different things. Regardless,
it never helped. I was about to say that never helped Rob Liefeld. But anyway,
yeah, you're right.
moving on. Anthony Daniels, the voice and actor behind C-3PO, has put out a new book entitled, a memoir entitled I Am C-3PO, The Inside Story. And he revealed a lot about his 40... I'm sorry?
Get it? Because he was inside the costume.
Ah, and he reveals a lot about his 40 plus years of adventures within the Star Wars universe.
And without going too much farther into the article, there may be some light spoilers for Rise of the Skywalker that's in this article and possibly in the book, I guess, I'm assuming, but definitely in this article.
Okay.
So, yeah. Including something I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Star Wars, because it doesn't necessarily, I don't think this article talks about what happens, but it may allude to something that I was talking about. I don't know. Next up, Chadwick Boseman's, I don't know what's wrong with this, who wrote this thing, but Chadwick Boseman's audition for Guardians' Drax led to Black Panther casting. So this is something I did not know, that apparently Chadwick Boseman tried out for Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
That's news to me.
Yeah. And obviously he did not make it, but he got a better part out of the deal. But that's weird to know. I mean, because, well, actually, I don't know how big Boseman is, but in comparison to Batista,
Oh, you
Sure.
mean physique wise?
Yeah.
Oh, they don't compare. That's not
I know, that's what I'm saying. But that's as you said earlier, a stark difference.
right.
But so apparently, again, coming out of that apparently this is also coming out of that documentary you talked
Right.
about.
Exactly. And I've watched this documentary. Now I'm going to have to rewatch it to see this clip. That apparently there is a bit of Chadwick Boseman's audition on that clip.
Yeah. So which means I'm definitely going to have to watch this commercial / documentary.
Exactly.
So yeah, as we know, Chadwick Boseman ended up getting Black Panther, but this is definite news.
Yeah, speaking of this same documentary and some of the news coming out of it, there's a rumor out there that Marvel's Moon Knight series is going to tie into the Blade film, and that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, it kind of does. Definitely does. I mean, because the Marvel Knights thing aside, there's ties there between the
Absolutely.
characters. So, hey, I'm for it.
All the sense.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see if this actually comes to any truth to this, or if it's just like wishing in the realm of rumors. Disney Plus already has hit 10 million signups since launching on Tuesday. So
wait, hold on.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, a lot of folks signed up. 10 million signups since launching. This was not fools like us who pre-ordered, mind you. We should or is it? Actually, I don't know. Well, it says here, yeah, the flagship Dream officially launched yesterday and already has surpassed 10 million signups. While Tuesday's launch did come with some technical issues, and boy, did it, that prevented users from connecting with the service. It still appears that a good amount of customers were able to sign up for the equally. So this is basically, this is what I said. Wasn't signups, wasn't pre-orders. It was people signing up on the day.
Well, remember, they didn't make the bundle available until the day of.
No, they had. Well, we talked about bundles.
No, but the Hulu and Disney Plus.
That was one that before. Yeah.
Was it available before?
Oh no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that version as that was. You're right. They talked about there being one before. Yes.
Right. That wasn't available until day of launch, so that probably had some effect on this. But yeah, obviously there is a landslide of people trying to get on. So,
but also it had a bunch of like I said, people like us who pre-ordered. And it was a bunch of people. If you look on social media, everybody and grandma felt like either they were going to do it or have already signed up for it,
right,
in one way, shape, or form. Yep. And so yeah. So to put the numbers in perspective, Netflix reportedly having 60 million paid domestic members and over 97 million international in its third quarter of 2019, which we are already into the fourth quarter. So yeah, the Disney-owned Hulu reported, reported having more than 28 million subscribers in May. CNBC notes it took 5 years for CBS to reach 8 million streaming subscribers combined for CBS All Access and Showtime, which that's combined for both of those services.
That makes sense.
Right. Well, yeah, but
All they were enticing people with was Star Trek.
right. But has it been 5 years for CBS All Access? That doesn't sound right. But
No, they're probably counting Showtime.
I know, yeah, they're definitely counting Showtime because, like, I know CBS All Access hadn't been around that long. But
No.
regardless,
I was about to say it's definitely been around for I think 3 years though, because
that sounds about right. That sounds closer anyway. But regardless, 8 million viewers in that length of time to get to the even part of the way that Disney Plus did since 2 days ago.
right.
I mean, come on. If they didn't have Scrooge McDuck money bins right now, which they did have probably 4 or 5 of them, they're probably adding 2 or 3 more.
Right. Speaking of which, DuckTales is available on Disney Plus.
Exactly. And to push this along, Gargoyles creator launches Twitter. Gargoyles also on Disney Plus. Launches Twitter campaign in hopes of reviving the show. Now, we've kind of talked about something similar to this. Like, Greg Weisman has been out there talking about, somebody had asked him, last week, I believe, somebody asked him, like, what would you do on Gargoyles that you couldn't get done? And he basically saying, hey, anything could happen, saying that, it could possibly get put back on the air. Well, I mean, this is the same Greg Weisman, also that show ran Young Justice, who also went through a similar campaign and worked and got a 3rd and another 4th season, I believe, is coming on DC Universe or whatever that ends up being. So anyway, when it was first announced that Gargoyles would be fans, Gargoyles is apparently a way beloved show that I never got into.
Definitely.
I can't say
that show.
Right, and I can't say it was after my time because I was still watching like DuckTales and stuff and going to school, in half of the Disney afternoon. But for some strange reason, that one kind of passed me by. Like, I think I might have seen one episode. Talked about that before, so that's regardless.
Sure.
So basically, he's saying that in his own words, we can live again. Keep binging Gargoyles on #Disney Plus. This is exactly how the Young Justice fandom, like I said earlier, was brought Young Justice back. It can happen to Gargoyles too.
Absolutely.
Keep binging Gargoyles.
Keep hope alive.
Exactly.
So next up, speaking of binge watching, Disney Plus did not fix the Star Wars Clone Wars show ordering. And this is something that I was made aware of when I finally did my binge rewatch through less graceful means. Let's put
I feel like I told you about that.
Right. No, but I did my rewatch through less graceful means.
Sure.
And
so
I looked up the viewing order.
Yeah, I think I gave you that for viewing order, which is the same amount.
Right. Exactly right. No, but my point is, people are reminded. People.
Yeah, I put this in the lineup as a reminder. There was no articles about this. This is me doing it out there because that was the other thing I did during my perusal of Disney Plus, because I wanted to see if they went and changed the Clone Wars ordering to the chronological order. They did not. It is still in the same order that it has been since it was on Netflix and all that kind of jazz.
Right.
So I put this the chronological episode order back in the lineup just for folks who might want to do a binge watch one of these days, because if you're like me, if you didn't go through, if you went through it like I did and was really perplexed about that whole first season,
exactly, as it was released, that's perplexing.
Then it was like, that's weird. But now there's from Star Wars themselves,
exactly
the correct order you should watch it in, and it's definitely not in the order of how they have it on.
Oh, Disney. Definitely not, because the most surprising thing is that you jump to the second season
second and third.
Right. So it is definitely not in the order of release, and that is something you need to keep at the ready when you are doing your rewatch.
So basically, just to recap, it goes like this: there's an episode in season 2, back to an episode in season 1, the movie, then a couple of episodes in season 3. The first couple of first two or three episodes in 2 out of the first I'm confusing things. A couple of episodes out of season 3, then it goes back to season 1, and then everything else is kind of sort of right from there, with 1 or 2 exceptions.
It's on StarWars.com, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up.
And it is in our show notes, because I was really hoping. I knew they weren't going to do it, but I had to see. I had to know. So, and now we know, and now you have the chronological order straight from them, so you can have at it. Next up, the complete series of Teen Titans, not Teen Titans Go.
Right. That's where I always mix it up.
Heads to Blu-ray with special features. So yeah, the first season that people grouse about Teen Titans Go taken up, and well, I guess Young Justice 2, but whatever. Is not getting a Blu-ray release, which is kind of a bummer to me because I got them all on DVD. And it's also out there on
it's on DCU, yeah.
DCU, which I bought that before DC Universe was a thing. So, but hey, Blu-ray, regular quality. I'm going to hope they're going to up the if they haven't already. I don't know. I haven't checked on DCU. They're going to up res it like they did with Batman Beyond and whatever else. Batman. But it doesn't say here whether they're going to do that. It basically says that it's coming to Blu-ray on December 3rd with with the features and whatnot. So if you are so inclined, go for it.
All right, next up, in the latest volley in the streaming wars, Netflix and Nickelodeon are teaming up to take on Disney Plus by announcing a multi-year deal to produce original animated content based on the Nickelodeon library and new characters.
Yeah, now they've already kind of been doing this because there's been a couple of specials on Netflix already from that with a Nickelodeon thing. So I guess this is official because I know there was a Invader Zim thing and I believe a Rocko's Modern Life, none of which I have really an affinity for. But hey, you 90s kids, go for it. So good, cool. There's probably not going to be you can't do that on television one. So boo. Next up, Spike Lee to direct 1980s set hip-hop Romeo and Juliet tale Prince of Cats. So shout out to Ron Wimberly, the writer and artist of that. I had never read this book, but I saw it and saw some things about it. So Legendary is developing the film based on a graphic novel written and illustrated by, like I said, Ron Wimberly. Spike Lee is headed the filmmaker who last directed Black Klansman has closed the deal to direct Prince of Cats. The Legendary is an adaptation of girl novels. Blah, 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 blah. He will also rewrite the script and work with Wimberly and scribe Selwyn Sefu Hines, who, if I'm not mistaken, did he not write for like Vibe and Source?
The name rings a bell.
Yeah, the folks in the hip hop circle knows that name. So hopefully Spike Lee won't screw up too much, and I hope Wimberly won't let him go too crazy. That's all I'm gonna say. So, congrats.
Next up, keeping Roddykat far away from this story.
I've said my piece. I'm done.
The Greedo actor has now reacted to the McClunky edit, and
it was definitely McClunky.
And Paul Blake, one of the two actors who played the Rhodian bounty hunter. What else does he say here? I don't know what he says here, but who cares? He probably says something along the lines of, "Yeah, it wasn't in my." He
basically says, "I certainly don't remember the word McClunky." He added, "Are you sure that's not the noise he made when his brittle green head hit the table, or was it ouch and Rhodian just before he fired?" So that's but he also goes into a couple of little things that he about the recording of what was actually said. By the way, there is I know we got to speed this along just a little bit, but there was another thing out there I saw on Twitter, and I didn't get an article for it, that showed basically Chewbacca and Han's interactions, but it was the I can't now. Why am I drawing a blank on who played Chewbacca? Regardless, them running through the lines before the vocal overdubbing happened.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually kind of neat to see. You saw Chewbacca basically speaking in English to Han, and Han reacting to it.
Right.
So, but again, it was before the overdubbing. So it's kind of cool thing to see if you get to check it out. I believe that might be on Star Wars's Twitter account, but I can't remember where I saw it. But I know I saw it online. Regardless, Disney Plus said
I was about to say that's listening to Peter Mayhew's English accent.
Thank you, Peter Mayhew. Wow, I don't know why I even blanked on that. Yes, which
I was
actually
waiting to see if it would come back.
Yeah. I was hoping it would too, but sometimes my mind's I don't know, whatever. But which weirdly, as I remember, yeah, he is distinctly British, but at the same time, there was a couple of times listening to that thing. It's almost like he was just yelling it, not necessarily in British English, but it was weird, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But it's a good thing to go check that out. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes. Disney Plus settles debate over whether Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie, and I'm going to say, just like I said on Twitter, even if they didn't say one way or the other, it still is to me.
Okay.
Because if you know, Shane Black, who directed Iron Man 3, also, I believe, directed Die Hard. I might be wrong about that.
No. He didn't direct Die Hard.
He did not. So, regardless, a lot of Shane Black's movies is set around Christmas. But whatever, I put Die Hard into that. He might have done
he might have done some script work on because that's what he was famous for.
Shane Black was also Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Predator and ended up
right.
Yeah. So but a lot of Shane Black's movies which is one of the things I kind of weirded me out about Iron Man 3, and some people, not a lot of people don't really like it anyway for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Christmas part, but Iron Man 3 was weird. Like, it was basically Long Kiss Goodnight, which I believe he actually did do, but Iron Man, that was a whole weird thing, which was also set around Christmas, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, there you go.
Last but not least, in the movie, TV, entertainment section of the news, CBS TV Studios and the Television Academy Foundation have formed a partnership, a Star Trek internship program to let students get practical experience around the Star Trek universe. The Star Trek Command Training Program is an internship open to both undergrad and college students. What? To undergrad students all across the nation in 2020. Too late for us old geezers.
I know, right? That's the exact same thing I said when I read this.
2 interns per semester will get a chance to work on a Star Trek series and get an in-depth look at the production process for the series. That's cool.
I mean, I never finished my degree. I could probably go back, but I doubt they would still do it. But that's still,
that counts.
I know, but
you have matriculated. It counts.
That's a long way to go. Just for like, I would love to be on a Star Trek show. Sure, just give me a voice or something, or Star Wars. It doesn't matter. I'm at this point, whatever. Anyway, applications for the program are open, and they will be open until January 21st, 2020. Final selections will be announced at the end of that March of 2020. So, hey, if you're so inclined, go check it out. And also, I will go ahead and extend the congratulations to Anthony Rapp, who I believe got married to his fiance. Or they got engaged. I can't remember which one it was. They were a very cute couple, looks like. So, okay. No, I think he got engaged because it was like because I think I saw his thing and said he said yes. So yeah. Anyway, congrats. Next up, now we're going into the comic book news,
and we're going to use the transition that is in my head because I've been binge watching Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Which is the exact same transition that I was alluding to earlier that I did not have on mine.
Oh, and so by the way, just I'll get on my little soapbox here just for a half second and say that I now remember why I appreciated the Firestar character, and it is a shame that they have not been able to do as much with her in the comics as they did in a couple of short seasons of this animated show.
It's true. Yeah, because you're right. Because she had like a one-shot book, and then they put her, actually, as of recently, the last time she's shown up in an X book was, probably about 3 years ago? Probably
right. Right. She had a decent amount of shine in the 90s. She was on the New Warriors, and then obviously she's on the New Warriors. She was part of the launch team with that. And then She was an Avenger for a good amount of time.
Remember with Justice, yeah.
Right. But after that, it's been tough going for Angelica Jones. So, obviously she was a stand-in for Mary Jane Watson, but still.
She was not a love interest of Peter, but I get what you're saying. Yes. Hey, she was whatever. You know what? I'm not even gonna say that because it was a cartoon. That's, but yes, I love me some Firestar from back then. Remember when they dressed up as Halloween costumes, but they went kind of as themselves? Actually, no, they didn't because she went as Medusa.
Right.
Like, oh, that's a cut. That's a deep cut. And
I skimmed past that episode. I got to go back and rewatch it because
I think Peter went as himself as Spider.
Yeah, exactly. Spidey went as in a budget costume, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and of course, the one I had to see, which if you
Iceman went as Cap.
Huh?
Iceman went as Cap.
Yes, that is right.
Speaking
of Cap, seven little superheroes, which is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man and Amazing Friends. I was watching that earlier today. At the time.
I gotta watch that. It's on my list.
I love that one. This is a great one. Yeah. Anyway, the Riverdale gang goes full. We could talk about the stuff we watch on Disney Plus all freaking day. That's another podcast. The Riverdale gang goes full Hitchcock in season 3 preview. So this is not for the show. This is for the comic series. Apparently there's a Riverdale season 3, and I'm guessing this is based off of the show or not. I don't even know. I don't even know where Archie Comics is at this point. I know there's a lot of stuff. Regardless, November 3rd, Riverdale season 3 number 1 comes out, and there's apparently they're likening it to Rear Window, the Hitchcock movie. So take with that as you will.
Next up, after Tim Drake chose a new superhero name in Young Justice number 8, readers had to wait 2 issues to see the hero unveil his new costume in issue number 10. He's now going by the code name Drake, but not rapping in a lame voice.
Thank God.
Found his capeless suit in the climax of the team's battle against their evil crime syndicate of America counterparts from Earth 3.
Yeah, that was the weird thing about that run, because I can't remember if I said it or not. It's like the Drake thing, that came out and that said that, but it's like he had his old costume and then poof, he had this new costume.
Mm-hmm.
Like no way, like all of a sudden he just had it, and they didn't really go into as to why, which I don't know. I mean, or where he got it from. We know kind of where he got it from, but whatever. It was just weird, but that's Bendis, so it is what it is. Yes, and Tim, our Tim, who wrote this article, notes the distinctions in the costume. So go check that out. Batman just became the most powerful lantern in the DC multiverse again. So apparently this is from Batman Universe from last week, I believe. And yeah, Batman does it all again. Boo. Next.
Jessica Cruz wrestles with Omega Power in Justice League Odyssey number 15. So that is in this week's Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. I need to catch up on this because that thing is, I've heard decent things about that book. And Dan Abnett is writing it, who's from the Marvel front, we know has done some good stuff. So, but I need to check it out. I haven't. And we already talked about what happened to her previously before this, so yeah, we don't need to go back into that. Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant number 1 pushed back a month. So DC informed retailers that Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant number 1 has been pushed back 4 weeks to a new January 15th, 2020 release date. It was originally solicited for a December 18th release date. The publisher didn't specify a reason for the change, nor give any further clues as to why the issue would contain. Clues as to what the issue would contain besides the previously announced 24 pages of new stories plus classic reprints. I mean, judging by the title, we know what it's going to be based off of, sounds like.
Okay.
So that's something. Next.
All right, next up, Raphael Grandpa, not Grandma, has created a new, previously unsolicited variant cover for December's The Dark Knight Returns, The Golden Child, I Want the Knife, which upcoming DC Black Label one-shot that returns to Frank Miller's Dark Knight continuity with Carrie Kelly in the mantle of Batwoman. Go ahead.
No, which I was going to say that this image is very striking of a real life picture that was circulating around social media at a certain time a year or two or a few years back during a certain protest.
Sure.
So if you're watching the video, you can see that the cover in itself. So cool. What if DC's Blackest Night was even darker? Tales of the Dark Multiverse goes here that this is something for this week's Tales from the Dark Multiverse issue that came out. And I guess Tim Celia says it's a straight up horror comic, one that imagines a world where Blackest Night ended with the bad guys winning. So you're the villain, just not, but in what if form. That's my editorialization.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Next.
All right. Brian Bendis has revealed that Hawkgirl and her home planet of Thanagar will play a role in both Superman, in the titles Superman and Legion of Superheroes. So part of the story is going to be in modern day in Superman, and 1,000 years from now is going to be set in part in the Legion of Superheroes book at the same time.
All right, cool. Next. Yeah, apparently Bendis likes Hawkwoman. Go figure. Leviathan to return to Secret Leviathan Dawn #1. So you've already talked about what happened, something that happened in the event Leviathan from this
Yes,
week.
we find out who Leviathan is.
So apparently so apparently that person will return in Action Comics and in whatever new book this is.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
Cool. Leviathan Dawn.
Hey, question: is this someone that someone would really know out of DC Universe? Or is it someone new? I'm just curious.
Spoiler alert! Ding, ding, ding.
You don't have to say who it is, but
it is a character that is a pre-existing character.
Okay. The question, got it. Next,
it's not. I'll spoil that.
I know.
All right. Next up, Pop Pez DC Comics are coming soon, so you can bring home your favorite DC Comics superheroes and supervillains in Pop Pez form. So I guess these are Pop based Pez dispensers.
That is correct. And there's a Green Lantern one if you're watching the video. Lex Luthor, I assume Armored Lex Luthor, Green Arrow, and Hawkgirl. Or yeah, that's Hawkgirl. I'm going to assume that's Hawkgirl because. So yeah, in other pop news, there is actually more Pop Pez news in the My Hero Academia forum, which they are also getting pop versions of Pez dispenser. I know somebody who is actually, I don't know if they're fully collecting them, but I know who likes Pez enough to start collecting that stuff. And I know there are collectors of that scene.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't seen them in a while, but that's interesting. I like Pez enough, but not enough to.
Well, some people just you can make a collectible hobby out of so many things. So
for sure. And I remember I've had my moment with Pez and I'm like, hey, that's neat, and had thing. I couldn't tell you what those things are to save my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, next up,
I definitely have a Spider-Man one laying around here somewhere.
Of course. No cap? Surprise.
I don't think at the time when someone got me that Pez dispenser, I don't think they had very many Captain Americas out there. So
sure.
This is way before the MCU. So, speaking of pop figures, though, the Fantastic Four wave is coming in January 2020. So that fictitious but actually real embargo on Fantastic Four goods that went out the window when Fox was bought by Marvel is gone, and now we've got Marvel Legends and now pop figures, a whole horde of pop figures.
Some good looking, definitely.
And some of them look so good.
Mm-hmm.
The Galactus one seems like there should be a scale Galactus, but in any event, some of these are super, super awesome, and they are long-standing needs or wants in the pop collection.
Yeah, then people give pop a lot of flack, which some for some due reasons, but people just hate on Funko Pops for no good reason. Like, if you don't like them, fine, but don't let other people enjoy them.
I mean, that's strange, but at the same time, I'd understand. I'm more critical of the collection aspect of it, like the whole you can't even have a beat up box. So
well, yeah, this is not even going that far,
right.
But which they would be mad at me because I got a couple of beat up boxes. Anyway, some of these I might end up getting.
I have open ones. They hate me. So
Yeah, as soon as I get some space, I'm gonna open up a couple of mine. I really would. I wish I had gotten when the comic book shop closest to me went out of business. They still had an 18 pop one, and I should have gotten it when they had it on sale. And I'm mad at myself because it didn't.
Oh, you mean the 4? They had like a set of 4?
No, they had the 18 van.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that I held off on. I didn't get the
Right.
I got the 4. I got the members of the team, but
Yeah.
I didn't get the van.
Yeah. Anyway,
next up, you got next.
I think so. Yeah. October is X-Men #1 powers comics sales to the highest total in 3 years. Not that big of a surprise. So apparently, X-Men #1 did some numbers. And the top 10 rounds out with Powers of X, Powers of 10, #6, which is #3, House of X, #6, #4, and Marauders #1 is #10. So, hey, guess what? The X Corner of the Universe did some numbers, like I said.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. All right, next up, something that I referenced earlier. Marvel Comics has informed retailers that X-Men issues number 4 through 6 have been postponed by the publisher. This 2 weeks after retailers were told that X-Men number 4 will feature a different story than originally solicited. So December 18th, X-Men number 4 has been pushed back to January 1st, which is not that bad, leading January 1st, X-Men number 5 to likewise be pushed back 2 weeks to January 15th. Marvel has postponed January 15th, X-Men number 6, 3 weeks to a new February 5th release date. So the publisher did not inform retailers why this was occurring to this planned twice monthly title. However, the originally solicited creators are still slotted to work on these issues. So I know people's wallets will appreciate the break. But at the same time, we've remarked not only about the X Corner, the Dawn of X books, but even the Black Cat annual this week had something very specific in its print. On that,
Yeah, I forgot to mention that in my notes. I totally forgot to mention that in my notes. Yeah, because I basically said that it's a good thing that this book came out on time.
Right, and
because
it's
of that really specific date that it had in it.
Right, it's really remarkable that they're hitting these publication dates. Let's see if Doomsday Clock does the same thing. Shots fired.
So we also remarked earlier about this particular thing about how whether it was going to knock or change something in continuity of the X. But I don't think it will, because I suspect, and this is me speculating, that by the time it gets to these issues, that reading order is just for the beginning stuff, and then everything is just going to go off on its own. So I don't think it's going to kill too much. I don't think it's going to mess with it too much, personally. Yeah. But we don't know.
Exactly. We'll see.
Yeah.
Alrighty, you got next.
X-Men's Final Dawn of X comic teases the debut of a villainous god, and this is for this week's Fallen Angel, which we did not talk about, but we did. We talked about the book, but we did.
Right, we tried not to spoil it.
Right. Yeah. So apparently, we said enough about it. Basically, it leans back into. Actually, that part didn't talk about this part. Regardless, there's strange things afoot at the Circle K or Krakoa or whatever. That was a very undue Bill and Ted reference. Whatever. So yeah. There's the shenanigans that we slightly kind of alluded to earlier outside of the world of Krakoa and fueling this book. Was introduced in that book and will play out somewhere.
All right. Next up, Marvel reveals a secret player from an Avengers Weekly event series. So this was
again with the book we're talking about.
Exactly what we discussed in Agents of Wakanda, right?
Right. So we did not talk about this person showing up, but we did talk about what they did. We talked about something surrounding what they did. So basically, we can go ahead and spoil it and say that the Gardener, one of the elders of the universe, shows up, does something with the moon, because the Earth had been taken during the time of Avengers No Surrender,
right?
And done some things that were brought into play in this issue of Black Panther and the Ages of Wakanda.
Right, and that's why we were wondering where OG Nick Fury is, Mr.
Right, or anyone who's would
Right.
be on the moon at this point to notice this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, which at the time that it was originally done, they were not. Well, Nick Fury, yes, but well, yeah, actually he was. Anyway, the comics, whatever. 2020 Marvel Comics event incoming to have launch parties.
Incoming.
Yeah, the incoming stuff that retailers have to pay for. Which I know they're happy about that. Not really. But anyway, the one shot that will shape the future of the Marvel Universe into 2020 and beyond hits stores on December 26th, and participating comic book shops near you will be hosting, or maybe hosting, I don't know, because I know my guy probably was like, nah, probably, I don't know.
Yeah, he's not trying to stay open that late.
Yeah, or whatever, because I know the last couple of times they, like, even for the Iron Man stuff and some other stuff, he's like, no, I'm just, I'm doing this and that, but I'm not, that's whatever. Lunch parties will feature exclusive offerings. Grab a party variant by Jorge Molina that shows your favorite heroes readying themselves for this massive event by donning mysterious eternity masks. Also, collectors can start planning ahead to the new year with 2020 calendars. So
it's always welcome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That stuff is always. I'm pretty sure
those Marvel calendars are always welcome.
I used to love this stuff. So yeah. So go check out your local comic shop the day after Christmas and see if that happens.
Yeah. Next up, Marvel revealed the real reason Spider-Man and Black Cat tied the knot. Supposedly,
we won't go into it.
Exactly. We talked about it in our review of the book.
Yeah. Deadpool's Mike Hawthorne goes all city in new art book. I saw this on Twitter, where he was doing his art book. So yeah, I feel like we may have actually talked about this last week. I don't remember, but this is an article about. I've never seen Mike Hawthorne. I didn't know he looked like that. If you're watching the video, you can see what I'm talking about. This 20-year-old comic veteran. Oh, basically it says if you only know Mike Hawthorne from his Deadpool or Superior Spider-Man work, you don't know Mike Hawthorne. The 20-year comic book veteran was once known for his knack of switching up art styles to fit each project. But found his groove a new level of fame with a multi-year run on Deadpool. Now, as Hawthorne works on what could be his last Deadpool project, Deadpool: The End, he is showing a raw look at his artwork and all its styles in the 2020 art book All City Volume 0. Currently going through Kickstarter with a November 20th deadline. So it says here that All City Volume 0 is what the artist tells Newsarama is an all-access, quote-unquote, pass to his work. And it goes on to be an article talking to Mike Hawthorne about the book. So cool. If you like his artwork, go check it out. You can see one picture of, I think that's the cover, actually, of the book on the video. Which sometimes, hey, you may want to watch the video because you can check out some stuff.
Sure,
I met what we're talking about as opposed to the theater of the mind.
Yeah, I met him at New York Comic Con, I think 2 years ago.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't think he's ever come down to Heroes. If he has, I must have missed him. I don't know. But then again, I'm not sure if I was reading anything that he was doing anyway. So next,
all righty. The what?
The
police in Tokyo, Japan, have reportedly apprehended a burglar whose modus operandi has earned him the nickname the Amazing Spider-Man in reference to the iconic Marvel comic superhero. So this dude broke into a rooftop office in Tokyo's Shinjuku neighborhood back in April. The 26-year-old allegedly broke a window in order to gain access to the building and absconded with only $605.
Wow, that's US. I mean, 6,000 in Japan is probably a good bit more, or I don't know, worth more or something. I don't know. The exchange rate is what it is. So yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I would have gone with Black Cat myself, but I'm just kidding. That's the thing that happens sometimes. Transformers TCG gets Amazing Wave 1 Energon edition set. So for those of folks unlike me, who are already on who like me are on the Transformers TCG train, and been trying to collect what they want, this may or may not be for you. So Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast have found a new winning formula with their recent Transformers trading card. I don't know, some people will tell me it's not taking off everywhere, but at the same time, I'm not sure if that's true. They just might not be in their particular area because they're up there with you in New York. So I don't know how much of this stuff you've seen. Anyway, the Transformers TCG Wave 1 Energon Edition will celebrate the game's first year by giving 6 of the first wave's characters new art and foil cards in an incredibly slick collector's box that resembles a blue Energon cube. If the new cards and the fantastic packaging aren't enough, the cube lifts off and reveals a display that will show off the new character cards. So either way, this will be the star of your Transformers TCG display.
Okay.
You can see the artwork for the cards right now. I still don't have that Cliff Jumper. I thought I was supposed to get that, and I didn't. I'm kind of upset about that. And that's like a card you can't really get. So that's just me. Of course, and then there's some Decepticon cards here. There's the display. There's the case in question, with all the accoutrement, which that's kind of neat. So, and there you go. It looks like a you might think it looks like a cosmic cube, but no, it's Energon. That's all I'll say. And then of course there's some packaging for I guess that is it goes through the rest of the packaging as it comes. So cool. I really like that the art on that stuff is pretty good. I haven't not yet to play. I know Matt Wang also is a fan of the TCG. I don't know if he would be interested in this or not. If he's already got a whole complete set, probably does. of Wave 1 and beyond, because I know that's at Wave 4 now. I think going into 5. Yeah, so that is the thing. Catch it. Next up, we have a link to an article that is a guide to the holiday Transformer fans' best wishes. Stuff that's on the shelves for Transformer fans for this holiday season. Yeah, I meant to send this to Dirt, but he probably may have already known about it. I don't know. If not, he can see this. If he listens to the show, I don't know if he does. But basically, it just goes through the levels of the series of the stuff they got. Because there's a lot of stuff that's out, and they service different age levels. Sure. So that this kind of goes to distinguishes between those. So it's a good little jumping off for that stuff, if you're so inclined. Check out this preview for an all new original graphic novel called All My Friends Are Ghosts, by S.M. Vidari, who has teamed up with Hannah Krieger and Boom Studios to create a new original graphic novel called What I Just Said. Based on the title alone, it reminds me of Paranorman, which I believe was a book that turned into a movie, or vice versa. I don't even know. Boom's Kaboom imprint will be publishing the story about discovering and believing in yourself, and we have a preview that you can play. Well, this article has a preview that you can check out below. So cool. All right. Speaking of previews, you can link to a 6-page preview of Family Tree #1 by Jeff Lemire and Phil Hester. It's a story about an 8-year-old girl literally beginning to transform into a tree. Goodness gracious. It's fruit. Or not. Yeah. No. So yeah, you can check that out here on this article for the preview stuff if you're so interested. Jeff Lemire, also of Gideon Falls fame, by the way. Yep. Here's another preview. Read the first chapter of the so a little behind the scenes. So we did not get a click of the week from Dirt this week. This was going to be my pick for him. Outside of Gideon Falls, because we know he loves Gideon Falls. But I thought about this. Anyway, read the first chapter of the Wolf Cop trade here, which just came out this week. So if the title doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what's wrong with you. But it's a cop who ends up turning into a wolf. His name is Lou Garou, which, if you know what Garou is, that's a little on the known. So basically it says, ever since hard-drinking local Woodhaven police officer Lou Garou had a late-night bender and stumbled into a dark magic, his life's been turned upside down. Now he moonlights as Wolf Cop, a rage-fueled, bourbon-swirling, magnum-toting rabbit warrior of justice.
Okay.
That tells you all you need to know about that. Even if the title alone didn't. Like, this is basically B-movie material. Anyway, next up.
All right. On December 18th, Peanuts' Snoopy is going in space. In the original graphic novel, Snoopy, a Beagle of Mars, Snoopy's going on what Boom Studios calls his grandest adventure yet. Okay.
Not to be confused with John Carter of Mars, I suppose. But
right. I think that's on Disney Plus.
So what?
I think that's on Disney Plus.
Probably. They have both the National Treasure movies on there, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Which I still haven't seen that second National Treasure movie, and I don't know why I would put myself through that. but I will. Anyway, Tata Rambo, hoping I'm pronouncing that right. The unknown civil rights leader revealed in La Voz de Mayo, Mayo. It's as it's spelled out. It's not, yeah. The history is how you remember the past, and the story of Ramon Jargui. I'm probably butchering that. I apologize. But also known as Tato Rambo. There's a typo in the title, by the way. Was also lost until it was rediscovered by his great-grandson, comics writer Henry Barrages. Apologies again. So this is coming out from Top Cow, and this is an article with the writer about the book, which came out this week. A real-life historical figure and the writer's great-grandfather. So you can check that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, on December 25th of this year, writer Zeb Wells and artist Will Robson present Peter Porker with a brand new Spider-Ham #1 one-shot. Is this a ongoing series or a one-shot?
This is not an ongoing, definitely. It is a limited series.
No, it's a limited. It's a limited series.
Yeah.
And try not to read it. Try not to read every line in John Mulaney's voice, but
or do. That's up to you. So I a little behind the scenes, we sent this to Dirt, who's a big Spider-Ham fan for some odd reason. Maybe because of John Mulaney's.
No, more likely because of Star Comics from the 80s.
I mean, sure, we have an affinity there, but regardless of whatever it is, he was excited about this until he saw that it was a limited series. Which I would kind of want to see Jason Latour write this. I don't know why, because I have seen some stuff from him, and probably because he had Spider-Ham kind of dealing with Gwen for a little bit.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it could happen, but regardless, Zeb Wells and Bill Robson's got a thing coming, so have at that as you will. Someone commits murder most Marvel in incoming #1 first look.
Oh no.
Indeed, well played. Someone's dead and someone's a murderer, and who and why will set the stage for the next big Marvel Comics tale. In this first look of December 25th, incoming #1. So this is a preview for that, if you're so inclined to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I think some things I had speculated about from a recent miniseries may be coming into play if the preview page is any indication. Next up.
All right, next up. In the LGBTQ themed sci-fi comic Kyoko, the eponymous 6-year-old hero rebels against the fascist regime controlling her home planet. This is part of a year of free comics. Is this
apparently this is a free web comic that's
okay.
The article's writer may have found out about, sounds like.
Okay.
From it seems like.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, follow that link for a free webcomic.
Yes, and it sounds like that's what that's about. So yeah, webcomics, they're still out there, and this sounds like one that as of interest to this article, to this writer, and some other people maybe. So yeah, Webtoons doing some things. I think Sanford Green's got a Webtoon comic out there, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's still going or not, but yeah. Anyway, preview got another preview for Our Encounters with Evil: Adventures of Professor J.T. Meinhardt and his assistant Mr. Knox. That is a long title. Good gracious. So this is a Mike Mignola book with Warwick Johnson Caldwell's it's getting so okay. Mike Mignola and Warwick Johnson Caldwell's graphic novel Mr. Higgins Comes Home is getting a sequel in Our Encounters with Evil: Adventures of Professor J.T. Meinhardt and his sister Mr. Knox. Johnson Caldwell wrote and drew the story with Mignola, creating the cover, and Clem Robbins provided the lettering. And there's a preview of it in this article if you are so inclined. So we know a Mike Mignola fan, but it's only because of his art in Hellboy.
Ah.
Next up.
All right, next up, the Flash title at DC will be celebrating 750 issues this February, and the publisher is going to mark the occasion with an 80-page prestige format anthology similar to the Big Detective Comics number 1000 and Action Comics number 1000. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to revert back to its legacy number for that occasion.
Good. More books need to do that and stop. Well, one, stop doing number one, but we know why that's happening, and that's a whole nother right we've already talked about. DC Year of the Villain will raise Leviathan's DCU influence even higher. Yay. So this is an interview with Bendis about Year of the Villain and I guess Event Leviathan and his upcoming upgrade in status. So sure. Okay. Next.
Right. Next up, it's official. Nebula is getting her own Marvel comic. So it's going to be her first solo series. I don't know if it's limited or ongoing.
Probably limited, but I don't think it says here.
All right. And it's Vita Ayala, not Ava Ayala.
You're gonna get that right one of these days, dang it. Yeah, so it's a limited series. Yeah.
And the best part is that I'm not completely making up the name.
No, you're not. You just pulled it from where you didn't think about it. So yeah, the limited series launches in February 2020. I don't know how many issues it's going to be, but Jen Bartel is doing the covers on them. She does great work. I don't know who's doing. Does it say who's doing it? Claire Rose looks like she's doing the insides art. And again, I think there's some preview art in this article. So cool. Good for them. And them in this case meaning the creative team. Marvel's The Pull List reveals February 2020 titles. So what?
You skipped one.
Did I?
Yeah, you skipped the sad news.
Oh darn! I did do that. Oh no, that was not intentional. Hold on a second. Yep. Come on. There we go. Yes. So, that's why. God dang it. So, what the hell happened?
I can read it. What's wrong?
Well, none. Well, so Tom Spurgeon, longtime writer, editor, foundational blogger at the Comics Reporter, has passed away at the age of 51. For some strange reason, that link is not pulling up because I must have did some shenanigans like sometimes happens.
Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace, Tom Spurgeon. And I believe someone else in the comics field died that I saw earlier, but I can't remember who it was, and I didn't get something on it.
Surprising news because one, he's pretty young, and two,
Mm-hmm.
it was very sudden. And Tom Spurgeon has been, his name as an author and as a reporter on comic book stuff has been around for ages. We're talking like pre, like the earliest days of like CBR, the earliest days of Newsarama. Like he was doing all that stuff. So
I believe I saw Heidi McDonald, who also wrote this article, said that I believe she said the conscience of comics has left us, or something along those lines. So right. No, he definitely was, and other people like Jason Aaron, was it Jason Aaron or Jason Latour? I believe it was Latour. Had their condolences and thoughts about him that they talked about over social media. So, like, yeah, it's definitely a blow. And like you said, he was definitely young, and his voice was definitely felt in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and apparently was 50, not 51. So, but, I mean,
Still,
yeah.
it's even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So yeah, condolences to him and his family on his loss.
Yeah, it doesn't say what, but that's
Yeah, exactly. It's
doesn't matter at this point.
yeah. My understanding is that it was sudden because he had posted something just the other day.
Right.
So it was definitely unexpected.
Mhm.
Next up, though, Marvel's the Pull List podcast reveals lots of information about the February 2020 titles that are coming out. So host Ryan Panagos and Tucker Marcus put out a lot of news about some new series, including a Gwen Stacy series and a Falcon and Winter Soldier series that is going to be a precursor to the Disney Plus series.
How's about that? I feel like that was like, duh.
Right. And there's going to be an all-star creative team taking over Conan the Barbarian. The poll has also shared more details about upcoming titles, Ant-Man and Wolverine, and shed light on the highly anticipated event book X-Men Fantastic Four.
I'm sorry. I was like, wait, that felt like Ant-Man, and the way you said it sounded like Ant-Man and Wolverine.
Oh, like it was a tie, yeah, like it was a team up.
That would be funny.
Yeah. But no, it's not a team up. They're just respective titles,
Separate books.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Wolverine is the ongoing we've already talked about, and Ant-Man is a limited series by Zephyr Wells. There's also X-Men Fantastic Four, not to be confused with the classic. Well, I wouldn't say classic, but the miniseries from many year ago. Yeah, this is a different one, written by Chip Zdarsky with covers by Terry Dodson. Yeah, apparently that's going to be another event type thing. That actually, shoot. Actually, it's kind of similar to the original John because it's surrounding Franklin Richards,
right,
which we knew was going to be coming up at some point.
Exactly, it's been set up. It's been set up in Hawks Pox. So
yes, it did. So we kind of knew it was coming up. So it's just not in the same vein as what, because the original one had to do with Mephisto, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's been a long time since I looked at that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. So this is in line with what's going on with Hot Parks, like you said, and there you go. Anyway, next up, some little bit of video game news here, and the last one of them, the last bit of news for the night. Star Wars: The Old Republic hands out a free pet in honor of Jedi Fallen Order's launch. So Jedi Fallen Order actually comes out to, well, at the time of this, at the time of the recording right now, it's a little past midnight, just to get a little behind the quarters. Today, 11:15.
No kidding.
Yes. Also, Pokemon Sword and Shield comes out today, and I've already got that on deck, so I will be probably playing that later on, or probably after I finish wrapping up this program. Who knows? Regardless, Jedi Fallen Order comes out today. Hopefully, I will get it sometime soon. But if you play Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, you can get a free BD1 inspired mini pet. If you log in between today, excuse me, yeah. Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. Yes, yesterday. Well, technically yesterday. The day we actually record is Thursday, November 14th. Sometimes you don't say the years, but we do. Thanks, Q-Tip. November 14th and Tuesday, November 10th. If you log in between that, you can get your free RE1, which is the BD1 inspired bot. Which BD1 is the droid that accompanies the main character of Jedi Fallen Order. Also, who's being played by Gotham's Joker, which is crazy in itself.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, that's the thing. I'm looking forward to playing Jedi Fallen Order. Whenever I get it, I will let folks know when to do. But Pokemon is on Deckington, and that's got priority. Unless someone wants to send me Fallen Order. And again, if you play Star Wars: Old Republic, have at your free pet.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're wrapping up our latest episode, and here comes our last ad read for the night. It is for Busted Tees. This episode of the Comic Book Chronicles is sponsored by Busted Tees, your home for funny, awesome, cool t-shirts that are sure to get your friends' attention. Busted Tees puts many of their popular shirt designs on sale at a discount each week. Choose from several eye-catching t-shirts inspired by movies, video games, TV shows, comic books, and geek culture. All that and more are on sale. To help keep our podcasts free, order from Busted Tees by going to cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts Free link. Click on the Busted Tees banner and then shop for awesome t-shirts. Busted Tees through cspn.us. Do it today.
There's a picture of Tom Hanks on the site and the t-shirt right next to him that says Hanks Giving.
There you go.
So yeah, just in time for the holiday, folks. Go check that out. Anyhow, we are at the end of this here Comic Book Chronicles. We'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for coming out. I'm glad I did the thing with the recording before now because I would have had some issues. So to wrap this all up, you can find us here at the Comic Book Chronicles. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me also at News Need on Twitter, and CB Caps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. I believe he finally did finish his Inktober drawings. You can go check all that stuff out in their entirety. Some good stuff in there. Go back and peruse.
I did finish. I didn't finish on time, but I did finish. I am taking a brief hiatus from drawing to take a break, but I do have some planned drawings just to post now and again, so stay tuned.
And if I haven't said so, happy NaNoWriMo because it's November National Novel Writing Month. I'm hoping everybody's participating, is getting their words out, getting your 1,500-1,600 in per day or whatever it is to it. Hoping the words flow free. I don't think I said that at the beginning of the month, but I might have. Regardless, reiteration is always good. Keep pushing, folks. Don't edit, just keep writing. PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Nets on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and his umbrella sites therein. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION, theclicknation.com. CB Cron, that's the site, that's the account for Comic Book Chronicles, and of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. Some of the articles that we had in the lineup was from Tim. Go thank him. Go read his work. Be like, hey, this dude, he's a good writer. Give him some clicks. And with that, you can find us on cspn.us.
Do it today.
Right, the Cold Slither Podcast Network, folks. That's where we at, along with a whole bunch of other podcasts. You can also find us on Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And we will be back next. Wait.
Yeah, we're good.
We will be back next week because
right. It'll be the week. Right. It'll be the week before Thanksgiving. So
right. So I suspect we probably won't have a show then, but we will let you know next week whether one way or the other or whatever happens up at that point.
Exactly.
So until then, good folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. I have spoken.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your